fans arriving in downtown Minneapolis for the fourth game of a big 9-game homestand for the Minnesota Twins. And they play their counterparts from the National League. Both teams chasing teams from Missouri. The Twins behind in the standings with Kansas City leading, but leading in the wild card by 3. Pittsburgh chasing the St. Louis Cardinals in their division, but leading by 2.5 in that wild card chase. So certainly some similarities as both these teams trying to lock down position for the run to the postseason here in the second half of the baseball year. Welcome inside Target Field. It's been a steamy day here in the Twin Cities. It's cloudy now with some sprinkles, but we're going to have baseball, and it's going to be on time. And this is a rematch from a series back in May where the Twins went to Pittsburgh and won a couple of games and looking to get back on track and get momentum off 3 series losses after the All-Star break. Let's take a look at this matchup. I mentioned the series at Pittsburgh. The Twins inside that series scored 12 runs. They won both those baseball games. They'll look to get their offense back on track, and boy, has it been on track here at this baseball stadium. At Target Field in the month of July, the Twins are scoring 6 runs a game. That's led to a 32-18 record, 3rd most wins in the American League. But they face a Pittsburgh team that got off to a slow start, and they have been the best team in baseball. If you go back in the calendar to May the 22nd, 39-19 for the Pirates, and a big reason for that is their pitching staff. Team ERA at 3.05, second best in the National League. So who has the edge in this interleague rematch? When we come back, Dick Bramer and Roy Smalley take you inside the numbers. It's the Twins and the Pirates in the first of 2 from Target Field.
Nissan Kia. 2 locations, 1 very low price. By Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by Chrysler. Enjoy your summer in style with great deals at the Chrysler Summer Clearance event.
It's the final interleague series for both the Pirates and the Twins, and both teams will send a struggling right-handed starter to the mound. Charlie Morton's been struggling as of late for the Pirates, and Mike Pelfrey hoping to bounce back with a good start here tonight as well. A hot and steamy night here at Target Field. Dick Bramer along with Roy Smalley. The Twins have had a very hard time last couple of years keeping their center fielders healthy. Jordan Schaefer, Aaron Hicks, and of course Byron Buxton too has had some injury issues, but the latest injury to Buxton has given Aaron Hicks another opportunity, and one that he might be seizing.
Yeah, I think he is seizing it. You know, different guys mature at different times. Guys have big league talent. Some guys get it right away. Some guys it takes a little longer. Aaron Hicks, it has taken a little longer. He came up here for 2 years and seemingly floundered. Started the year in AAA this year and found something, and something that clicked for him. And the approach that had him hitting .330 down in AAA has shown him that he can do similar things at this level, and the confidence has gone up. The aggressiveness has really improved, and all of a sudden, Aaron Hicks is looking like the #1 draft choice that he once was, and it looks like he's starting to, as we say, get it.
Back in mid-May, the Twins went to Pittsburgh, swept the Pirates, which is tough to do. They've got a home field advantage, much like the Twins have. But since that point, the Pirates have been really good. They've done well in interleague play and have emerged as a very strong playoff contender.
They start with a really good starting staff. Charlie Morton struggles, the pitcher tonight notwithstanding. The guys on that hill for their starters can really get it done. And then you throw in some guys that have gotten real hot at the plate. Of course, they have Andrew McCutchen. He's the straw that stirs the whole deal. But Marte's a good player, and Neil Walker's a good player. Alvarez can hit the ball in the ballpark. They got a lot of guys that are really, really good hitters. So you get the combination of guys that are hitting the ball in the ballpark and a good starting staff. Chances are you're going to win some games.
And they'd like nothing better than to pay the Twins back for the 2-game sweep in Pittsburgh. Mike Pelfrey will have something to say about that. He hopes to finish with a good start here tonight. Finish his month of July with a good start tonight against the Pirates. Pittsburgh, hoping for a good series here. It's a condensed 2-game series, a noon game tomorrow. And so the next 24 hours very important to both clubs, both teams in, I guess, a similar spot. The Pirates are about where the Twins are against the Royals, only behind the Cardinals. And you can see Clint Hurdle, a great job with the Pirates. Second in the National League Central. And they were not playing particularly good baseball when the Twins faced them in May. They are playing good baseball right now. The Pirates batting order is a little bit different than the original one that was issued. And we'll talk more about that as we move along through the first innings here. Gregory Polanco will lead things off. Neil Walker hitting second. Andrew McCutchen third. Then Ramirez, Gong, Alvarez, Cervelli, Ishikawa, and Decker.
Mike Pelfrey on the mound for the Twins to face that very hot, lately hot hitting Pirate lineup. Look at Mike's stats there. Very, very good to start the season for a couple months. Been struggling a little bit lately, as Dick mentioned. He'll try to get himself back consistently in the strike zone tonight.
And the first pitch on the outside corner to Gregory Polanco. Polanco, the right fielder in tonight's game. Foul back, 2 strikes. Pelfrey, for whatever reason, has pitched much better here at home than he has on the road. One of his few good road starts was in Pittsburgh. He pitched the second game of that 2-game series. 6 innings, 1 run. That was the game where Joe Mauer hit the extra inning home run and the Twins swept the 2-game series. Pelfrey not involved in the decision. See in home games, Pelfrey's ERA almost a third what it is on the road, and now 2-2.
And those last 2 pitches were the split finger changeup that he was throwing so effectively early on in the season. Made his fastball better, made his confidence better, really buried some doubt in hitters' minds. And of late, he has not been able to throw it as well, has not thrown it as much, and I think that's been the difference.
Crack foul behind the tarp that we hope will stay there for the rest of this homestand. We had a couple of brief showers, nothing that required the tarp to be used. Just sprinkling the infield. 2-2 to the leadoff man here in the first. That's hit to center, and Hicks glides over to make the catch. 1 away. We'll check out the Twins in the field. Paul Molitor coming back today after an off day yesterday with the regular players, most of them anyway. Eddie Rosario, Aaron Hicks, and Torrey Hunter across the outfield. Blue at third. Escobar getting the start at short. That continues to be a revolving door for the Twins. Dozier, Mauer, the right side of the infield, and of course Suzuki behind the plate. 1 down. Neil Walker hitting second. Starling Marte was originally the number 2 hitter for the Pirates. He was scratched about 45 minutes before game time. He's got some digestive issues, and so we don't expect to see him at all today. And with a day game tomorrow, decent bet. I suppose he won't be around in the starting lineup tomorrow as well. There's a strike on the outside corner. One thing we might see from Pelfrey is a breaking pitch he's been working on. Slider or a slurve that he has been working on in his bullpen sessions. And that a fastball lifted foul and out of play. Plouffe will leave his third base position and play on the right side of the infield.
Well, you pretty much have to have 3 pitches if you're going to be a starting pitcher. The only exception to that, as we look at Trevor Plouffe, the only exception to that is someone that throws real hard with good movement on his fastball and it has a great split finger. I mean, really good. And that way you can get by primarily on 2 pitches, especially to left-hand hitters. But the breaking ball is something to right-handers is going to be important for Pelfrey. And I do believe that he's going to have to master that split finger pitch so that he has something more to get left-handers. I think that's the most important pitch for him to complement the good movement on his fastball. Most important pitch for him against left-handers is that one right there.
Lazy fly to center. Hicks has an easy play. 2 down.
And that was at a good speed and a good location. The split finger, I was talking with Jack Morris about it today, who was a master. They had a wonderful split finger changeup. Really was a devastating pitch, and Jack used it very, very well. And I was talking to Jack, and I said, from a hitter's standpoint, Jack, I'll just tell you that you have to throw that pitch. And I believe Pelfrey has to throw that pitch a lot and get command of it and keep throwing it. He can't just throw fastballs and an occasional breaking ball that he's working on. Jack made a really good point. He said that he had talked with Mike about that as well, and said you got to throw it a lot and you got to throw it down in the strike zone, even bounce it a little bit. Left-handers will swing at that.
Might have been the slider off the plate on the first pitch. A fastball outside, ball 2 to Andrew McCutchen. Foul and out of play. Pelfrey has pitched at 94, 95 miles per hour. I think that last fastball, the top speed so far that we've seen, 93.
And he has good movement on it so far. I mean, 93 miles an hour with that kind of movement, if you've got complementary pitches, is plenty fast enough. He has the ability to get in on right-hand hitters like that. Just like that, but you're going to have to put some doubt in their minds that they might get something else, or you're not going to get in on them like that all the time. They're going to adjust to that.
3 straight fastballs after what appeared to be the breaking pitch. 2-2 to McCutchen. And that might have been the slider right there.
That was definitely it. Great 2-strike pitch right there in a really good location.
All-star break. Just a 2-game series. Hard to sweep that, I suppose, but that's exactly what Paul Molitor wants. With Brian Dozier leading off in the Menards batting order. Torrey Hunter, Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano, Trevor Plouffe, Eddie Rosario, Aaron Hicks, Kurt Suzuki, and Eduardo Escobar. Facing right-hander Charlie Morton.
Charlie Morton, he classic sinker ball, sinker slider pitcher. Struggled a little bit of late, but the Pirates guys telling me the ball, when he's on, that sinker really bites down hard. Hitters have a hard time keeping it up from beating it in the ground. So we'll see if that's working. We'll see if the Twins can make him get the ball up in the strike zone.
Dozier takes up ball 1. Pull shift in the infield for Dozier. Swing and a miss, 1-1.
There's that power sinker right there. And the plan for the Twins hitters is to lay off that. If you see the ball coming up to you knee high, then you're going to lay off of it, because it's going to be that hard sink that's going to go down below your bat.
Pulled foul, 1-2. See in the first inning, a bloated earned run average.
Happens a lot with sinker ball pitchers. They have to establish their release point with themselves. They have to figure out where that's in. There's the slider. Brian just off the end of the bat.
1 down. That'll bring up Torrey Hunter. Pirates have some issues defensively with 72 errors. The left fielder Jeff Deckert, Andrew McCutchen, Gregory Polanco. Aramis Ramirez acquired from the Milwaukee Brewers. Jung Ho Kang, the shortstop. Neil Walker, Travis Ishikawa, and Francisco Cervelli, the catcher. One down. Here's Hunter. 1-0.
So again, the plan for the Twins hitters with Tom Brunansky, make the ball be up in the strike zone, because there just will not be any future in trying to hit that sinker if it starts out as a knee-high strike. It's not going to be in the strike zone very long.
Over by the Pirate dugout. 2-1. Kevin Gorg talked about the incredible earned run average of the Pirates, just over 3, and that's not even the best in the National League. Team the Pirates are chasing the Cardinals with a team ERA about a half run less than that. So clearly the National League Central, a very pitching rich division. 2-2 to Hunter.
One of the other starters there, A.J. Burnett, also with nasty stuff.
On the right field line, a foul. Still 2-2.
When you think about this Pirate rotation, Garrett Cole, A.J. Burnett, Francisco Liriano, this guy Charlie Morton, Locke is there, is the other fellow that I think the 5th starter who's got good stuff. There's a big slur that just keeps on breaking.
Hunter strikes out. That'll bring up Mauer.
Watch this slider to Torrey, 2-strike slider. It starts out toward him and just keeps biting away. It's a big slurve type pitch. Twins are going to have to see that a little bit to really believe how it can keep biting down and away as long as it does.
And Mauer takes a strike on the outside corner. And in the dirt to the backstop. Twins one game above 500 in the month of July, and yet Mauer's really enjoyed the month of July, swinging the bat like we've seen him in his other years in terms of picking up hits. Has driven in only 4 runs, however, in the month of July. Swing and a miss, and it's 1-2. It's kind of been a ongoing issue. We've seen the Twins blow both hot and cold when it comes to producing runs from the lineup. And they blew both hot and cold in the Yankee series alone. 2-2 now.
It's been an interesting characteristic of the Twins offense lately. I should say an interestingly uncharacteristic, hasn't it been? If you think back to the road trip that they went on to start the second half of the season, or post All-Star break, through the Yankee series, they've scored runs in bunches based on home runs. They haven't strung an awful lot of hits together. They've gotten some real timely home runs as Joe fouls off a big slurve. That's a pitch you don't, as a left-handed hitter, you don't see very often. A big breaking slurve type of slider curve like Morton has.
Foul ball, got a piece of Cervelli.
Left-hand hitter against right-handers. You just don't see this movement very often. That's it. And he will not throw it so much, that back foot slider that we talk about. He throws it on the outside, breaking it down.
Fastball inside, sliced foul the other way. Pelfrey had a 1-2-3 first. Now Morton trying to have a 1-2-3 first. And it's a full count with Sano on deck. Two games with the Pirates and 4 with the Mariners, and as of right now the Twins will not face King Felix in that Seattle series. So a chance for the team to take care of some business here against the Pirates. The Mariners have been under 500 all year long, and they won't face the Seattle ace. So even though they lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, a chance for the Twins to still put together a good homestand. Another 3-2 to Mauer. Pitch number 19 for Morton. And he took it low for ball 4. And that'll bring up Sano with a man aboard. Sano hit his 3rd home run here the other night. Very good on base plus slugging. That's the OPS that you saw on your screen.
You bet, over 900, and you're doing some damage.
Slugging percentage of .517, on base percentage of .405, and with those numbers being what they are, the Twins are willing to live with the 26 strikeouts in 60 at bats. It's an awfully high number, just about every other at bat.
Yeah, on pace, on that pace, he'd strike out over 200 times, and obviously that's too many, and they need to work on that. But from the other things that we've seen is it takes that big bender for a strike. From everything else that we've seen, his plate discipline, even with all those strikeouts, Dick. I mean, some of the pitches he's taken, some of the things pitches he's fought off, he could have 50 strikeouts very easily, as tough as these pitchers have worked on him.
2 strikes to Sano. And that's what we've seen. That's a breaking ball. We've seen rookies come up and wave at that after the 2nd strike. And as we said the other night, with some players, if you blinked after the 2nd strike, you would have missed the 3rd strike. But with Sano, we have not seen that much of that.
No, we really haven't. He has been struck out on very, very tough pitches. There's nothing that you see with him right now. You say, boy, he really struggles against that pitch or that pitch, or he can't recognize.
Got a pitch to hit and fouled it straight back.
He's just a little behind on it with 2 strikes there, trying to protect against that big slurve that we just saw, so he doesn't swing at it in the dirt and wait just long enough to identify the pitch, and it just had him just a tad late. It was a good swing at it.
Mauer with a huge break, and a balk will be called, and that's the only thing that'll keep Joe from getting a stolen base. Twins technically have the right to decline the balk here. So at any rate, Mauer will gain 2nd base. Morton completely ignored him, and Joe took off, I think, before Morton accepted the sign from the catcher. So Mauer at 2nd. And the count 1-2 to Sano. Two and 2.
Well, if the umpires don't notice that, you get away with it. But
at some point. Here's the 2-2 to Sano. Sliced foul. Actually, I suppose not that it was a conscious decision. That's about the best outcome for Morton in that situation, I would think. Mauer's going to end up at 2nd base.
He's going to be at 2nd, so he could have thrown a wild pitch. He could have done just about anything. The catcher could have thrown it into center field. So yeah.
And if he'd have thrown the pitch and Sano clobbered it into left field. Now 2-2. Tapper in front of the 3rd baseman Ramirez, barehanding and firing, and the ball gets away from Ishikawa, and Mauer will score. Ramirez barehanded it, threw across off target, and Ishikawa tried to catch the ball instead of block it, and the Twins get the 1st run.
Well, a terrific play to catch that ball barehanded by Ramirez. I really thought he should have gloved it with Sano running. Didn't get out of the box really quickly. He comes in and catches a little almost in between hop, and then, which is the toughest part of the play, and then throws it over. And that's a ball right there that he didn't make a good throw, but I think the first baseman's got to knock that ball down. He's got a really good chance of catching it. That wasn't that tough a little short hop over there at first. So tough error on Ramirez.
And now Plouffe with a foul, a single for Sano, no run batted in, and an error charge to Ramirez on the throw. The 2-out walk that Mauer took, the balk that advanced him to second. Now an infield hit. Not the type of damage teams have done against Charlie Morton, but nevertheless a first inning run. Now stroke to left to the corner. Sano rounding second. He'll get third. And the throw comes in, a long single by Trevor Plouffe, and the Twins still aren't done. That'll bring up Rosario.
Good swing by Trevor there. Got the ball up. See this pitch right there, thigh high. You can see the sink on it. But Trevor got it, made it be high enough where it was a comfortable swing as the ball started sinking. See him go right down and get it. Try to get toward the bottom part of the ball there on that sinking pitch. Very nice swing.
Well, that will make it an earned run. A quick trip to the mound by Ray Searage, their pitching coach. And Rosario will bat with runners at first and third and 2 away. Interesting splits, not encouraging splits for Charlie Morton. Left-handers doing much better than right-handers. So now the Twins send a left-handed batter, Rosario, up.
And if you had made me have to guess, I would have guessed that left-handers would hit Morton better. He's sinker slider guys. If you don't have a change-up or split finger or something that you're able to get left-handers out, they tend to see the ball better. Their swings are generally low balls. They like low fastballs, so sinkers play into their role a little bit, or their strong suit a little bit better than right-handers.
There are the numbers, an 80-point difference.
Yeah.
We'll see if Rosario can keep the line moving here in the first inning. The breaking ball over for strike one. 21 runs batted in for Rosario. Fair ball, and Ishikawa catches it right on top of the bag to end the inning. Bauer draws a 2-out walk, a couple of singles follow, and the Twins get a run.
And a fastball outside to get behind. He comes back on the corner out there 2-1. Now watch this. Inside he buries that thought in McCutcheon's mind that he's too late on the fastball, and then gets him on a slider that starts out looking like a fastball and breaks away. That was a nice sequence of pitches right there from Pelfrey to a very good hitter.
Strike one to Aramis Ramirez. Ramirez picked up recently. Good part of his career spent with the Pirates. Now swing and a miss, and it's 0-2.
Well, I would tell you, Dick, you correctly called that Pelfrey working on a different kind of slider. It's a little bit more like a slurve as well, but it's a good pitch. It's a better breaking ball than I've seen him have to this point in his Twins career. That's a much better breaking ball.
One and two. Ramirez just coming over to the Pirates on Thursday. A lot of player movement today. We'll get into that as we move along here. Trading deadline, of course, on Friday. Roller to short. Escobar to his left. Scoops and fires one away. For more on tonight's Twins shortstop, let's find Kevin Gord.
Yeah, Dick, we just saw Eduardo Escobar make that play. I talked to him today in the clubhouse. By far his most comfortable position, but he said he doesn't care where he is out there. He just wants to be in the lineup. His last 40 starts here at this ballpark at Target Field, he's batting .336. When I asked Paul Molitor about the shortstop situation, he said it's not a comfortable one. I'm not trying to put pressure on these three guys. Of course, he's battling with Danny Santana and Eduardo Nunez, also looking for some playing time. But he said someone's got to take the bull by the horn and take charge. Maybe Escobar can be that guy. Guys at .336. At Target Field, maybe a little pop in the lineup when the team is struggling to score runs could also come in handy as they wrap up this 9-game homestand with 2 at the Pirates and then 4 more with Seattle.
That's the hope, Kevin. Thank you very much. One down here in the second. Here's Jung Hoo Gong. And now 1-1. To me, it's remarkable, and I'm guessing as a former shortstop, you think it's even more remarkable. This Twins team has been above 500 most of the year. Now 6 games above 500. They, if the season were to end today, would be a playoff team. And yet they've, for one reason or another, been unable to settle on a center fielder. Basically the health concerns we talked about in the open. But they've tried numerous people at short, and no one has secured the job. You know, it was Danny Santana's job and has been off and on all year long. Santana sent down to the minor leagues for a while. Escobar had it. Eduardo Nunez has been there. And it's just nothing has, for any length of time, allowed any of those players to win the job. You got to have a shortstop, right?
Generally speaking, a winning team's going to have a guy out there every day.
High fastball, swing and a miss, 2 down. That'll bring up Pedro Alvarez.
But I will tell you this: I think that the battle for Paul Molitor has been that they really want Danny Santana. They believe he can be and want him to be the shortstop of the future, and so they're going to run him out there and really let him grow into that position. But the team has played so well, and they're battling for a wild card spot and still a division title. And so you got to have, at some point in time, to Kevin Gord's point, somebody's got to take charge of that. Somebody can step up, and whoever plays adequate enough defense and starts driving, being productive at the plate is going to play there the majority of the time the rest of the season, I believe.
1 strike to Alvarez, and now a ball. Alvarez with 14 home runs on the year. Grounder, and Plouffe cuts in front of Dozier and throws him out. Good play for the third baseman, cutting in front of the second baseman. And a pair of 1-2-3 innings for Mike Pelfrey.
And then channel Brian Dozier's slide, get up and throw him out.
Experience award-winning tournament-quality golf courses. Minnesota, known as the top U.S. golf destination. Over 400 courses characterized by beautiful natural settings, way too much water, way too much sand, excellent conditions, and affordability. There's a pitch outside to Aaron Hicks. Visit exploreminnesota.com. Discover a world that's only in Minnesota. Share and tag your Minnesota experiences with hashtag #OnlyInMN. And did I mention way too many trees? Hicks takes outside again, 2-0. Hicks, Suzuki, and Escobar, bottom third of the Twins lineup. Morton got the first 2 outs. Walked Mauer, gave up a couple of hits and an earned run. There was a balk mixed in there. And now Hicks takes outside, 3-0. Talked about Hicks in the open. The average now 271. The team's batting average 252. On base percentage climbing at 335. Takes a strike over the inside corner. 42 hits and only 9 extra base hits.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the open, sometimes it just takes some guys longer, and it seems like Aaron is maybe going to be one of those guys, but he's looked so much different this year, so much better. And whatever he did when he went down to AAA and hit 330, came back up here believing that it would work up here, and it was a little bit slow, but since July the 4th, he has really been swinging the bat well. Every statistic about his at-bats has been good. I think it's going to be baby steps a little bit for Aaron Hicks, but I think little by little he is going to convince himself that he has big league talent and he can be a force at this level.
Here's Kurt Suzuki. Hicks checked it first. Well, you would know better than me, of course, and most of our viewers, but once a player starts getting confidence, I mean, all gloves are off, right? I mean,
absolutely, it changes everything.
It changes everything, and I don't know that Aaron has been. And when you hit under 200, it's hard to have confidence. Inside nearly hit him, but if Hicks was suffering from a lack of confidence, and I think you could make that case over the last 2 years, it's building, and with every game where he gets a hit and a walk and gets on base a couple of times, continues to play well out in center field.
Well, there's no question about it, and his case, I think, is a classic case of what I've always believed in about that most players need to conquer every minor league level before they get to the big leagues so that they know they belong here. Aaron Hicks had really nothing in distinguishing in his minor league career until one decent year in Double-A, and because of the center field issues, trading Denard Span and Ben Revere, they needed a center fielder. They jumped him right from Double-A to the big leagues, and he wasn't ready. There's no questioning that. I mean, there's no doubt that he was not ready, at least in his mind, that he was absolutely a big league player. He had never seen a Triple-A pitch, and I think this last year, when after struggling for 2 years, and Paul Mahler sent him to Triple-A. I mean, not going to make the club, and you're going to have, at this point in time in your career, you got to put up or shut up. You have to decide if you can play or not. You got to show us you're going to have to hit your way back here. And to his credit, he did it. Something clicked. Something changed for him.
Inside to Suzuki, 2-0. And Cervelli will go to the mound.
And so when he came back up here, he had been more aggressive. He found an approach left-handed that saw him get an awful lot of success as a left-hand hitter, which he had never had in his stints in the big leagues. And so he brought that same approach up here and said, fine, I'm just going to be aggressive and get after it like I was in Triple-A. And he started having a little success. And it wasn't just hit after hit after hit, but it was just better at bats. He wasn't flailing away against balls in the dirt. He wasn't missing as many pitches in the middle of the strike zone that he either swung and missed or fouled back. So he got him 0-2, and they would work on him. Little by little, things started clicking with him.
Bounce to third, bobbled by Ramirez, and he will throw to first to get the out. And Hicks goes to second on the ground ball. Escobar will bat. Join us here at Target Field on August 1st for a DQ sensational Saturday as the Twins take on the Mariners. First 10,000 fans get a 1965 vintage bobblehead presented by Quick Trip. You can go to twinsbaseball.com/tickets and get your tickets today. There'll be a pregame ceremony Saturday with the returning members of that 65 American League Championship team being introduced on the field. Might be a great opportunity to go with parents who, if you are too young to remember that 65 team, the parents might enjoy seeing the bulk of that roster being introduced 50 years later here at a ball field in Minnesota.
I know this particular parent would like to see that.
1-0 to Escobar. Hicks is at second with one down. Swing and a foul. Escobar, of course, was the primary shortstop last year and had his best offensive season. And if he can just play to that level in the last 2 months of the year, he might be the guy.
Right. I think Paul's waiting for somebody to take charge of that position. And at this point in the season, even if they still think Danny Santana is a shortstop of the future, they have to have somebody go out there and take charge of it.
Taken down and in, 2-1.
Eduardo Escobar has the kind of swing also, especially from the left side, where, as I was mentioning before, left-handed hitters have a little bit better chance against right-handed sinker ballers. This guy would seem to fall into his wheelhouse a little bit.
Now 3-1.
Escobar primarily a low ball hitter. We'll see if he can get a sinker up just a little bit, enough to get up toward the bottom of it.
Sharply hit to the shortstop, gone. He fires across, 2 down, and on the play Hicks goes to third. That'll bring up Brian Dozier. Well, we were talking about Aaron Hicks and how the demotion to AAA out of spring training might have been a key part in his development. Brian Dozier would tell you that when he was sent down and not called up in September a few years ago, that was an important part of developing his drive to get up here and become the player that he is now. Brian talked about that at length when the Twins had a press conference in spring training announcing his contract extension. He pointed to that period of time when he felt a little snubbed, hurt, angered, determined, I think, is the one quality that really surfaced to get up here and never go back to AAA.
Right. I think Moles, there's usually a time in just about every player's career where you get a little wake-up call.
On one hop, a smash fielded by Ramirez, and he makes the play. Twins can't do anything with the leadoff walk, but still lead 1-0. Presented by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. By NorthlandFord.com and your local Northland Ford dealer. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. A 1-0 Twins lead. 6 up, 6 down for Mike Pelfrey. He'll pitch to the bottom third of the Pirate batting order. Cervelli, Ishikawa, and Decker. A big crowd on hand here tonight at Target Field. A lot of Lutherans here tonight. It's Lutheran night. Been a very popular promotion for the Twins over the years. Virtual sellouts in the 3 games with the Yankees over the weekend, of course. And now strike 2. One of the concerns regarding Pelfrey is and we'll speak of it in the past tense until it's proven otherwise, strike percentage. Not an issue tonight. 30 pitches, 21 strikes.
He's throwing a lot of strikes, and he's throwing them with all 3 of his pitches so far.
1 and 2.
Tries to throw that new breaking ball out in the corner, 0-2, which sets up that running fastball in. He can go back out there. He's done a really, really nice job of pitching in and then throwing the slider away and then throwing the slider away and coming back in.
And now 2 and 2.
As I was mentioning earlier, if you throw 92, 93 with the kind of movement he has on his fastball, that's fast. That's enough velocity if you've got another pitch or 2 to bury it in a hitter's mind, because 92 or 93 will get in on you pretty quickly if you're thinking about something else.
Shot to right field, down for a hit. The Pirates get their first base runner against Mike Pelfrey. Travis Ishikawa will come to the plate. Coors Light Cold Hard Facts. Mike Pelfrey at one point was among the league leaders in earned run average, but over his last 7 starts it has been a struggle. Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light.
And I can point to one thing, in my opinion, that has made the difference in those in that 0-5 here in the last 7 or whatever that was. Good fastball there. His ability to throw the split finger in the first part of that stat that we just showed you was a pitch that no one had ever seen, that the hitters started worrying about, and he started getting in on guys with fastballs. And the confidence, his confidence in his ability to throw fastballs for strikes, he had him around the plate all the time. And for some reason, in this bad stretch that he's had, he has either quit throwing the split finger or not throwing it very well, where he was throwing it very well early. And all of a sudden, in my view, you could see his confidence in, he felt like a one-pitch pitcher again, and he had to nibble with his fastball. He'd get behind, he'd slow down his delivery, everything slowed down, and everything got worse. And I put it right back to his inability to throw that split finger.
And we've seen this a number of times where he's gotten ahead of batters and then seems to be nibbling, pitching around the strike zone. A high tight fastball there might have been thrown with
purpose.
The intent
absolutely.
To stand Ishikawa up.
Absolutely. I think that's a good pitch, 0-2. You come in there hard a time or two, and then all of a sudden that guys leave the outside corner a little bit.
Chopper foul. Pelfrey at his best, able to keep the ball on the ground, get ground ball double plays. He's gotten 22 of those. 2 fly ball outs, 2 strikeouts, and 2 ground ball outs so far for Pelfrey.
Well, look at his hands. That's interesting. Almost an interlocking golf grip there. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
And now 2-2.
Well, I liked the 0-2 pitch. He came up and in, and then the 1-2 pitch. A nice attempt at the split finger down and away. Ishikawa did fight it off, but that's kind of the way you can work a hitter is try to throw something the absolute opposite part of the zone where you want to get him out. So come up and in, then try to get him out down and away.
Breaking ball gets a lazy pop up short left, and Rosario calls off Escobar, 1 away. I think Pelfrey's got to be encouraged. He's gotten some outs and some strikeouts with that breaking ball. 1 down. Here's Jeff Decker. Decker, a late add to the lineup when Marte went out with digestive issues.
There's a bit of distress.
Yes.
Well, there have been a lot of good pitchers that have been very successful with fastball changeup to left-hander. I'm talking about right-handed pitchers now. Fastball changeup to left-handers. There's a good fastball. And fastball, good breaking ball, slider, slurve type pitch to right-handers. And that's what it looks like Mike's trying to develop now. He's the split finger changeup is still a work in progress, but it's coming along. And this, so far tonight, his new, in quotation marks, breaking ball looks very good.
Sticks a fastball on the outside corner, 0-2.
And it just looks to me, this is a great example. It just looks to me like when he has confidence that he's got another pitch or two that he can go to, he has more confidence in working more quickly and throwing his fastball over the plate. And you should have more confidence in doing that, because if you're throwing those other pitches, there's pitches that are in the hitter's mind, and your fastball's faster.
Missing inside. 1-2. Not a misspelling by us. You saw his first name spelled Jaff. It is pronounced Jeff. Called, third strike. And Pelfrey has his third strikeout.
Well, just a real good low fastball that froze Decker. Nice movement. Starts right at his knees. Might have sunk a little below the strike zone, but looked like it went across the plate. It was right there. Two strike spot you have to swing at. Should swing at, because the umpire's going to call that one most times.
Polanco had a good battle going with Pelfrey. Ended up lining out to Hicks in center field. Missed the inside corner. Ball one. Get hard to center. Hicks going back at the wall. Leaps and makes the catch. 400 feet from home plate. Polanco's drilled the ball twice against Pelfrey and doesn't have anything to show for it.
The young man can play some center field. That's a big league catch right there.
These two teams back in May. Joe Mauer hit his first home run of the season against the Pirates in the 13th inning, putting the Twins up 4-3 to earn a dramatic victory. Now back to Target Field.
That was a highlight of the Twins season, winning 2 games in Pittsburgh. And it might have helped wake up the Pirates a little bit because they played really good baseball ever since. Torrey Hunter leads off the Twins' third, taking strike 1. Twins are 32-18 at home, so obviously they've done very well at home. The Pirates are 35-17. The Twins took 2 games in that series back in May. 1 strike to Hunter. Mauer and Sano will follow. Chopped foul. 0-2. Hey, I know you want to thank Torrey Hunter, Brian Dozier, and I'll try to give the complete list of Twins uniform personnel who came to your event and Tim Laudner's event, the Celebrity Waiter event at the Capitol Grill. Casey Fiend was there, Ryan O'Rourke, Dozier and Hunter, Butch Davis, Tony Oliva, Aaron Hicks, and J.R. Graham. All put on bibs and waited tables and spilled a lot, but everybody just had a wonderful time.
It was a wonderful time, and I can't thank all of those guys that you mentioned for being there. There's our little menu, and it was a party. Marty Gellner from FSN, and there's Brian, but as Torrey whacks one up the middle for a base hit, we had a lot of Fox Sports North personalities there. Dick UMC did a great job as usual, and Anthony LaPanto was there, Tom Hanneman was there, Jamie Hirsch, all from Fox Sports, and of course the players and their wives make the event, and I just want to thank them again. Tried to do that as best we could, Timmy and I, that night. We know what it is to have a free night, and they had an off day the next day. They could have done just about anything they wanted as families and couples, and they chose to come and support the Boys and Girls Club. We had our most successful event ever, and it just was a lot of fun.
Here's Bauer with Hunter at first. And Hunter checked. I doubt Morton will forget about anybody over there after what Bauer did in the first inning. He didn't get a walking lead. He got a running lead and forced Morton into a balk. And Bauer scored on an infield hit by Sano and the throwing error by Ramirez. Another single followed, making it an earned run. Strike on the outside corner. One steal and 4 tries for Hunter. One of those tries, a steal of home against Jeremy Guthrie and the Royals. Inside, and a bluff throw to first, 1-1. Twins scored in the first, had a chance to score in the second, trying to generate another scoring opportunity in the third. It's something they did with great success in the first 15 innings or 12 innings. There's a ball hit to the left field corner. Foul by about 8 feet. The Twins, it's almost like there was a switch that the Twins turned on in the first half of the Yankee series, and then somebody came in and flipped the switch down. And the lineup had a tough time generating not just runs, but scoring threats after that.
Some credit has to be given to the Yankee pitchers. Warren did a trip after the Twins jumped out to a 5-0 lead in the Sabathia game, the second game on Saturday night. Warren did a really good job holding the Twins down. And that wasn't chopped liver out there throwing pitches at the Twins in the second half of that ball.
Still the dirt by Cervelli.
Still, they could have won that game, and then the next day the Eovaldi just really had great stuff. That was going to be hard with that stuff being thrown at him on Sunday. It would have been hard for anybody to generate much offense. Any ball club. He was really good. So unfortunately, the rubber game really was the second game, not the third one. It's unfortunate they didn't win that game.
Usually speak of it in terms of the postseason. The good pitching will beat good hitting. But I think one of the things that's been increasingly evident There's better pitching in the game than there has been. Toward the hole, backhanded by Gong, and he throws it away. Hunter will go to third. Second infield error on the Pirates. Ball hit toward the hole, and Gong had to backhand it, and then he flipped wildly. First and third, nobody out.
Nice play to backhand it, and then wasn't able to throw the ball on target to second base. I believe he would have had Torrey. You see right here, nice play, backhand, jump up in the air. Really didn't have himself in enough body control, I think. I think he could have made that play, but he really tried to throw it underhand and across his body. And I think he had more time to get himself set to throw in the air. Make a more conventional throw than that one.
And now Sano with runners at first and third, nobody out. Sano got an infield hit, a chopper in front of Aramis Ramirez. And he takes a strike down the middle.
That's one of those sinkers right there that started out knee high and sunk down. That's actually a good take by the young fellow, trying to get the ball up in the zone. That's the one he wants to swing at, something more up there. Morton kind of buried that in under his hands.
In this sense, Sano's starting his big league career like Brian Harper played for most of his career with the Twins. Seemed like Brian Harper was always behind in the count 0-2. And then he'd go on and hit 300. I don't know that Sano's that type of hitter. Breaking ball got him, and a strikeout for the first out of the inning. And that'll bring up Trevor Plouffe. Time now for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag NorthDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Twins need to cash in here. They left Hicks at third base in the second. Now first and third, nobody out. Now one out. Plouffe singled his first time up. And he takes a fastball down the middle of strike.
Yeah, he's a little annoyed at himself right there. I think that's a pitch from Morton that I think Trevor wants back. That ball's right in the middle of the zone. That's the one. It's up high enough to where the sinker doesn't sink as much. I think Trevor really wanted that.
Swing and a miss on another fastball. 0-2. What we've seen from Trevor, the ability to tone some things down a little bit, still put the ball in play. At least that's the hope. He has struck out 70 times and 358 at bats. Couple of sacrifice flies, which is what he'd be happy to settle for here. Backhanded or caught by Ramirez, out at second, relay to first, a double play. And instead Plouffe bounces into his team leading 19th double play of the year. 1-0 Twins as we go to the 4th inning. Sanford Health injury report. Mike Trout with some ominous pain in his wrist. An MRI was conducted this afternoon. The Angels weren't going to announce the results of the MRI until after the game tonight. But coincidentally or not, the Angels picked up 3 outfielders today, with Shane Victorino going from the Red Sox to the Angels, David DeJesus going from the Rays to the Angels, and David Murphy from the Indians to the Angels. Now you can imagine DeJesus, Victorino, Murphy might combine to fill 2 spots with some sort of a platoon system.
Yep.
But the cost of the 3 veteran outfielders was, in each case, minor league prospects. You can't imagine the Angels would be willing to give those prospects up unless they intended on using all 3 players, obviously. And that kind of really underscores the results of Trout's MRI. Walker the batter, and it's 2-0. And now 3-0. Walker with a fly to center his first time up. Pelfrey doing a nice job throwing a lot of strikes, but now he falls behind 3-0 to the leadoff man in the 4th with McCutchen on deck. And a 4-pitch walk. Since Sunday, a lot of movement, and I suspect there will be even more movement. Ben Zobrist going to the Royals along with Johnny Cueto. Troy Tulowitzki going from the Rockies to the Blue Jays. Jonathan Papelbon going to the Nationals. Tyler Clippard from Oakland to the Mets. And now here's McCutchen, who struck out against Pelfrey in the 1st. Pelfrey's had starts that have gone along great through any number of innings, and then he just loses it. And that's what the hope is here in the 4th, that he finds it again, but now 5 straight out of the strike zone.
It's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it, that he could be clipping along as well as he does for 2, 3, 4 innings, and all of a sudden just kind of lose the feel of the release point for the strike zone.
To short center, and Hicks comes in. McCutchen retired, 1 away.
That's a huge pitch right there, really. Not only that he got back in the strike zone, he got in McCutchen's kitchen pretty deep there to get it out on a very, very dangerous hitter. So you're going to walk the first guy on 4 pitches and throw a ball 1 to McCutchen and then get him out. That's a big, big out, and hopefully that gets him back in the strike zone again.
Ramos Ramirez hit a ground ball to short his first time up. Another one hit to center. And Hicks with the catch. 2 down. So the first 5 pitches were out of the strike zone, and 2 pitches later there's 2 outs in an inning.
That last fly ball to Aaron Hicks, who can really run him down in center field. And what I just love about it is what a great look how quickly he goes right to the perfect route. Right, it's like he knows where it's going to land, and he turns around and gets there. When he does get there, generally speaking, that ball's going to come down in his glove too. He's very, very good out there. He liked that catch, little Michael Jordan tongue out. But I thought what was really remarkable about that catch is the route that he took immediately. He made the perfect drop step back with his left foot and ran right to the right spot immediately. There was no zigzag about it.
Here is Gong, the shortstop. Scooped by Suzuki. 2-0.
I saw this young man, Gong, when we were in Pittsburgh together, Dick. I went out the first day and I was watching the Pirates take batting practice, and I didn't know this young man. I had never seen him before, and I'm just watching him hit bullets all over the field in batting practice. I think, who is this guy and why is he not in the lineup? And then he did get in the lineup and hit bullets during the game. He's got a really strong looking swing. Although I would tell you, Pelfrey is really doing a good job of running that moving fastball in on right-handers. It's not only is he getting outs on it, swings and misses, he's getting broken bats, and it's getting in the heads of the hitters, and it's making his other pitches very effective.
That's a base hit to right field. Walker will just glide into second base. That was a first to third base hit, wasn't it, Roy?
Boy, I don't know why it wouldn't be. With 2 outs, it's not a great gamble. You got to make sure that you can make it, but
Torrey Hunter was over in the
yeah,
corner.
that just seemed like it would be a relatively easy spot, and I mean, I don't.
He gave up.
He gave up right away, and I guess because the ball went in front of him, that talked him out of it. Generally speaking, when the ball goes in front of you like that and not behind you, it means that you haven't gotten a good enough jump off the base. But he didn't have any idea where Torrey was playing, and could have made it.
Well, first and second, 2 away. Pelfrey pitched around the leadoff single in the third. Now trying to pitch around the leadoff walk. Holding on to a 1-0 lead. Twins have one team ahead of them. Suzuki out to the mound to talk to Pelfrey. The Twins getting a little heat from the Chicago White Sox, who are in a virtual tie now with the Tigers for third place in the division. The White Sox are leading the Red Sox tonight 8-2. Scored 5 runs in the first inning tonight. Pirates and David Price on the mound are trailing 5-1 in the 6th. Up and away, 1-1. Cleveland's fallen to last place. The question in Detroit and Chicago is, are they buyers or sellers? Are they in the race? Are they out of it? Checked his swing and a called strike. That may have floated over the outside corner.
Yeah, I think it did. It's a really nice little split finger right there. And again, those pitches, especially split finger to a left-hander, are very important. Keep setting up the fastball. Yep, you can see that ball float in there and dip down. Bert would say that the inside of the ball cut the outside of the corner, I guess.
1-2 to Alvarez.
Yes,
just missed the corner.
Oh, that is such a good sequence of pitches right there. You float that thing on the outside corner. Hitter's got to respect that. He's got to say, okay, I have to wait back and make sure it's not that, and then zip a fastball on the just off the inside corner. He was not going to swing at that one way or the other. If Pelfrey could have thrown that on the corner, he would have taken it for strike 3.
2-2 to a dangerous hitter. Back to Pelfrey.
Terrific pitching right there. Great sequence of pitches.
Pirates get a leadoff walk on a 2-out single. They strand 2. It's still 1-0 Twins. Twins, they scratched across a run in the first inning, have had chances to add to the 1-0 lead, but haven't as of yet. Carsoup.com trivia question: who are the 4 Pirates to win the National League MVP award since 1970?
That man's one of them.
And we would go back to perhaps Stargell.
Yeah, Willie Stargell.
Clemente. Bonds.
Yep, those would be my guesses.
Eddie Rosario will lead off the 4th for the Twins. Grounded out, leaving a couple of men aboard in the first inning. And he takes ball 1. Rosario, Hicks, and Suzuki. 2-0. Morton, a ground ball pitcher, and he has succeeded in getting a lot of ground ball outs here, including a big double play off the bat of Trevor Plouffe to wrap up the 3rd. 3-0. Hicks on deck.
Well, he does have, speaking of Morton, he does have a good sinker. It's got late movement. Throws it up there pretty well. 91, 92, 93. The ball comes up looking like a straight fastball. It has late sink. Like, there's a great example of it right there. And late sink, what that does is just get to the bottom of the bat. And guys have a hard time believing that they have to swing lower because the movement happens so late.
Left center field. And a long run for McCutchen, and that ball hits the base of the wall and rolls away. Rosario flying around second, on his way to 3rd. Throw not in time. It's a triple. For a guy who is the size that he is, Rosario has incredible power to the opposite field.
I was just going to say that. He's got just tremendously fast, strong hands through the zone. See, they're back, and they just whip through the zone. When his hands come, the big end of the bat's coming with them, and he drives that ball past the center fielder that would normally catch just about anything that falls inside the field. And now he's on his way. One of the real exciting plays in baseball, the triple. Watching a guy hit a ball that far and run that fast around the bases, a lot of fun.
And a good head first slide away from the throw. Now Hicks pops it foul over by the tarp, out of play. 1 strike. They list Rosario at 6'1", 180. Both measurements might be generous. And we saw him in the first pitch he saw in the big leagues drive a home run to left field, and it wasn't a wall scraper. It was back 5 or 6 rows to the opposite field.
He's got a real unusual hitting mechanic in that he kind of steps a little bit away, kind of almost in the bucket toward right field.
Hicks swings and misses. 0-2.
But is able to keep his upper body, keep his front foot closed and his upper body square to the pitcher, so that his hands stay back and he's able to have a good solid swing without tying himself up, because he steps away just a little bit. He clears his hips. It's a really unusual but effective hitting mechanic.
That rolls up the line from Cervelli, 1 and 2. Relay from Gong, with Walker having to lead back out of the way.
He was the trailer on that play, and you don't usually get in the way of the throw. That was a little odd.
Twins had a runner at 3rd and a runner at 1st with nobody out in the 3rd and didn't score. Inside, and it's 2-2 to Hicks. Hicks drew a walk his first time up. Pirates are playing the infield back. They'll concede a run on a ground ball just about anywhere. On the ground, and Rosario will come home. Walker over to Ishikawa, and Rosario scores. It's 2-0. After falling behind 0-2, Hicks got the job done.
Yeah, nice at bat by Aaron Hicks.
Every weeknight, don't miss MLB Whip Around on Fox Sports 1. Highlights, instant analysis, live look-ins from around the league. MLB Whip Around weeknights at 6 p.m. Central on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Run in, bases empty, 1 out. Here's Kurt Suzuki. It's hit to right field, hit pretty well. Polanco back, leaps and makes a fine catch at the base of the wall. Gregory Polanco playing right field here for the first time, and he makes a fine play on Suzuki.
That was a nice play. The ball fooled him a little bit. Kurt hits the ball to right field, and the ball carried better than I and Polanco thought it was going to, but he does get back to it. New ballpark. Doesn't know exactly how far the warning track is, but he times it well. He, like Hicks, taking a very good route to the ball, straight back.
And now Escobar. Ball one. Type of year for Suzuki. Last year he hit a ball like that and he had a double. This year he hasn't hit the ball as well, to be sure, but even when he does, he hits into some tough luck.
And I will tell you that's usually the way it happens. The better you hit the ball, the more often you hit the ball hard, the better luck you get. I don't know why that is, but it is.
Left center, and McCutcheon's got a long run here as well, and he makes the catch with Decker sliding and diving out of the way behind him. The Twins get a leadoff triple and another run in the fourth. Mountain Dew fans of the game enjoying the 2-0 lead. A steamy night here at Target Field. I'm not sure that it's going to be anything but steamy for the rest of the homestand. That's okay.
It's good by me.
It's the first time the Pirates have ever come to Target Field. Last time they played the Twins here, the Twins were still in the antiseptically climate controlled Metrodome. Cervelli leading things off. He got the first Pirate hit. Leadoff single in the third. 1-0. Pelfrey pitched around a wobbly fourth. And he misses inside again, 2-0. And he really had problems throwing strikes. It's been a chronic issue for Mike. And luckily in the fourth inning, he issued a leadoff walk on 4 pitches. Fell behind McCutcheon. And then ended up getting 2 outs on 2 pitches and pitching a scoreless fourth. Swing and a foul, 2-1. So if you're an optimist, if your personal glass is half full, you'll say, all right, he got through that inning. Now time to get back into the strike zone and continue to pitch aggressively.
Well, I am that optimist. I just, after seeing the way he came back, after throwing 5 straight balls. He really pitched well. So
on the ground, there's nobody there, and Cervelli has 2 hits to right field.
That ground ball right there will go into the technology banks. I promise you.
Right where Brian Dozier would normally be playing, but he was pulled over to the left side of the infield because the Twins have intelligence that's where Cervelli usually hits the ball.
If it's on the ground, it's generally up the middle and the other way. You can see them playing 3 guys on the left side, and he hit a ground ball to straightaway second base.
And now Ishikawa. A rocket up the middle and another base hit. First and second, nobody out. The Pirates have a quick threat here in the 5th. Number 9 batter, Jeff Decker. Decker called out on strikes his first time up. Pelfrey struck out 3 men in the first 9 at bats and hasn't struck out anyone since. Testament to the control issues we just spoke of. I won't mention it again in the presumption that sooner or later he'll get somebody to hit into a ground ball double play. There's a bunt nicely laid down, and Plouffe fires it wide and down the line. It'll score at least 1 run. Decker tips over, going to second, and Plouffe with a throwing error, and the Pirates are on the board and have the tying run at third with nobody out. Credit Decker with a sacrifice. And he was not going to advance beyond second base anyway, but he spun out rounding first base.
Well, Trevor comes in and bare hands this ball, and again he's got more time than I think he decides to take, and I don't know if Pelfrey got in his way there a little bit, at least to his in his eyesight. Decker going down, but the ball was sufficiently down the line to allow everybody to move up. We've seen 3 defensive plays now, 2 by the Pirates and 1 by the Twins, where I feel like the infielders making the play were hurrying themselves more than they had to. Ramirez had a bunt play, or a swinging bunt, and he threw the ball away. Gong threw the ball away at second base after making a nice backhand play, had more time than he gave himself, and now Trevor right there looked like his throw was a little bit funny for the amount of time that he had.
Polanco's drilled the ball twice against Pelfrey, and he hits a third rocket caught by Escobar. Man alive, is Polanco hitting in tough luck tonight. 2 lineouts to Hicks. He lowered his trajectory and saw the line drive picked off by Escobar. 1 down.
Big time play in a big situation. You're right. Polanco drills that ball. I thought that was a base hit all the way. Esco with a really, really nice dive and catch, saving a run there.
And now Neil Walker, a fly ball to center and drew a walk.
I'm amazed that Decker on second base didn't take off for third. The line drive up the middle. He had to have a real good idea where Escobar was playing. Even so, Escobar had to dive to catch it.
Backhanded. Escobar will come home. And they safe. Home plate umpire Marvin Hudson said that the tag by Suzuki was not in time, and we'll see if the Twins challenge it. Again, Suzuki gives the sliding lane. Oh boy,
very close. I think he got him, but I don't know if it's enough to overturn. This is a great play by Escobar. He's got a good arm, enough arm to get it there.
I think they got him.
I thought they did too.
Right, we should be able to tell from this angle. Right there. I believe this call will be right there. There's contact, right?
It looks to me like it is, and the question is there enough definitive contact there that you can see that will allow them to overturn it?
Again, it's been a frustrating thing for all managers because they will See what Joe Vavra tells Paul Molitor to do here. And this is interesting. Yep, they're going to take a look at it. There is a feeling that calls that were reversed last year are not being reversed this year. Why that would be, we don't know. We believe the tag was made with Ishikawa's foot 6 inches from the plate right there. But and again, this might be the best angle right here. That angle almost makes him look safe, doesn't it? But the overhead angle, I think, is the definitive one.
I think they're going to have a hard time overturning it because it's hard to see where the actual contact happened. I think the contact happened in time to get him, but you can't really tell definitively, I don't think, enough to overturn it. If he'd been called out, I don't think they'd overturn that either. See, I think that's contact right there.
Well, something caused his uniform pants to billow or to pucker. And so we'll see what the call is here. A very bold move by Escobar. You like the decision to try to cut down the tying run at the plate.
Yeah, I really did. I thought that was a really nice play by Escobar, and a good gamble in a game like this to try to cut down that run. He's got enough arm to make that play, and I think, as evidenced by this, how close the play was. I think that's a good gamble there.
We'll see what the verdict is. It looks like we are nearing a verdict. Safe. The tying run scores. Ishikawa. I'm guessing that the call will be not confirmed.
Right, it stands.
But the call stands, yes. So runners at first and second in a tie game now. Give Walker credit for an RBI, and McCutchen will bat with 2 on and only 1 out. McCutchen struck out in the first and then hit a short fly ball to center. That would have been quite a sequence of plays for Eduardo Escobar to spear a line drive going to his left, and then a hot ground ball on the backhand side and come up and make a 150-foot throw or whatever that was. And
it's unconventional. There's no question about it. It's an unconventional play. It's not unlike one of the great plays of all time that I saw with Al Newman in the playoff game, the last playoff game against Kansas City to get his
last home game. Yeah,
last home game, right? To help us clinch the pennant, when he, instead of throwing the first for a double play, he got the out at home.
Another fly to center. Looks playable for Hicks. Decker tags at second. And Hicks' throw coming to second base. First and third, 2 down. Coming up on August 2nd at Super America Not Whole Kids Day, the Twins taking on the Mariners, and the first 20,000 fans get a Twins cap presented by DQ. Go to twinsbaseball.com/tickets. Get your tickets today. And now Pelfrey will try to get Aramis Ramirez and get the Twins off the field in a tie game.
Well, the reason I like that play by Escobar is that it looks like it's going to be a close ball game. You try to get the tying run. If you don't get them, you made it a really close play, and you only really lose one more base runner. If McCutchen comes up and hits a double or something, there's one more run that might score. So you're giving up a chance for a run to get out of it. Yeah. See, I just think that I think the fact that Pelfrey was able to get out of it substantiates that was a good play by Escobar.
2-2 game, bottom of the 5th.
100 scratch-off tickets for my friend Christy here from Parker's Prairie. Now, I learned tonight that's up near Alexandria. I saw the pink, saw the crown, and Bert's not here, but Roy is here, and it's going to be exciting to be circled. Tell us what you guys are doing here.
We are here for the 10th annual Gillette fundraiser for the Twins Part Sparkle Night, and we're here just to raise some money for Gillette Children's Hospital and have a great time.
Well, congratulations. What a unique sign. Now, I know Roy is all about the crown because back in 1987, his team won the American League crown. Then they won the World Series. And so even though you're not getting circled by a Hall of Famer, you're getting circled by a World Series winner. You got the parade out on the field. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was fun being here. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here with you. I learned where Parker's Prairie is, guys, and now they get to go home with 100 scratch-off tickets from our Minnesota State Lottery.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Parker's Prairie right off of Highway 29, about 15 miles, I guess, west of Eagle Bend. And you go the other way, and it's Burbank, Minnesota, south of Deer Creek. Dozier pops it up, backing out of play. It's 1-1. Well, the Twins find themselves in a tie game now. They've had a threat to score in every inning, and have scored single runs in the first and fourth. Dozier, Hunter, and Mauer in the fifth. Dozier with a fly to left and a ground ball to third. Swing and a miss.
Another good example of that late sink action from Charlie Morton. That ball was straight. I don't believe Brian would have missed it. Morton is as advertised when he's good. That sinker's pretty nasty.
Pulled foul. Two sinker ballers going here, and the difference is Morton's gotten his outs on ground balls. Pelfrey's given up a lot of fly ball outs. He's trying to improve to 12 and 10 in the month of July. Dozier takes 2-2. Irvin Santana will go tomorrow for the Twins. Francisco Liriano for the Pirates. Twins handed Liriano his worst start of the year in the opening game in Pittsburgh in mid-May. He's had some neck issues. On the outside corner, Morton sticks a fastball and gets a called third strike. He'll bring up Hunter.
Yeah, Brian doesn't like it, but it was a pretty good pitch. Tough pitch to take with 2 strikes. Just a really nasty pitch. There's not a lot you can do on this pitch right here. You see that late sink. Looked like it had the corner. I don't know if Brian took it for outside or for down, maybe both, but it looked like it was a pretty good pitch.
Hunter with a strikeout in the first and a single in the third. Led off the third with a sharp single to center. Like the White Sox are going to win. The Royals have just taken a 2-1 lead over Cleveland in the 9th inning, so that game's probably put away with Kansas City's great bullpen. Deep to left, down the line, but foul. 2-1 to Hunter. Royals picking up Ben Zobrist today. They will put him in left field until Alex Gordon comes back.
That's a pretty nice pickup for the Royals with Gordon out. Zobrist, really, he's a professional hitter. He'll get some hits for them, some big hits.
2-1 to Hunter. Well, you have to respect what Dayton Moore has done. I think he realizes the Royals have a window now, and whether it's a 2, 3, or 4 year window, he is doing what he can to not only get the team into the playoffs, but position them and deepen them for what they hope will be another deep playoff run. 3-1, and ball 4 to Hunter. The Twins get another base runner, and it's been one inning of struggles after another for Morton. And now he walks Hunter in front of Mauer. Mauer was given credit for a base hit in the third. A ground ball to the backhand side of Gong, and he made the play, but then threw wildly. But they did give Mauer credit for a hit, so he's 1 for 1 with a walk.
We saw his pitch count up there. 85 pitches to this point here in the 5th inning. It's a lot, especially if they make him work here this inning. He will have thrown a lot of pitches for 5 innings of work.
Thinking about a bunt in front of Ramirez, and he takes ball 1. One other score of note, only because the Yankees were here and the Twins had that middle game get away from them after they jumped out to a 5-0 lead. The Rangers jumped out to a 5-0 lead tonight, and the score now, it's just in the top of the 3rd inning. 15-5 New York.
Well, there wasn't anything fluky about the offensive show that they put on the second half of the second game and then the 3rd game. Those guys can hit. There's no question about it. Speaking of a short window, probably with Alex Rodriguez and Teixeira and some of those guys getting up there in age, guys that are carrying them this year in their advanced ages.
Bauer takes a strike, 1-1.
McCann. All of those guys having nice years in terms of run production.
One and one, and a check of Hunter at first. Maybe the most interesting game, other than this one, for Twins fans. The Angels series with the Astros, Houston leading that game 6-5 in the 5th. Battle for first place in the West. Ground ball comes up for Walker, and the Pirates get another ground ball double play, sending just 3 men to the plate. The Twins come up empty in the 5th. We head to the 6th, tied at 2. Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. By Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, for the everyday competitor in all of us. And by McDonald's. Have bold for breakfast with the new chorizo burrito from McDonald's. Pelfrey hoping for a better 6th inning. He struggled in the 4th, but pitched a scoreless inning. Struggled in the 5th and gave up a couple of runs. Ball 1 to Jung Ho Kang. Pedro Alvarez, Francisco Cervelli will follow. There's a strike, 1-1. .76 pitches for Pelfrey, hoping to give the Twins 2 good innings here. Inside, and he hit him. And Kang will reach, leading off the 6th inning. It is the 4th straight inning where the leadoff man has reached.
Well, we talked about the good running fastball and Pelfrey's ability to pitch inside. This time, this starts it off too far inside and just keeps running in. Gets gong on the left tricep area there.
Well, the Twins have hit into a couple of double plays against Morton, and Pelfrey hasn't been able to get enough ground balls, or at least in key spots. He's been getting most of his outs through the air. Here's Alvarez. Hit 2 ground balls. One to Plouffe, and now Suzuki has to awkwardly backhand that pitch. It's hard to understand. Pelfrey, a veteran, he's been around a long time, but this has been a chronic issue for him. Sailing along and then just losing it. He had a game with a big lead and hit 3 batters in 1 inning. He just lost his release point, had to be taken out in the 4th inning. 1-0. And there's a fastball that shaves the inside corner.
Yeah, and I think that he hasn't really, this game has been different. He hasn't really lost it altogether. As we look at Ryan O'Rourke warming up in the Twins bullpen just in case. He has given up a leadoff base runner in a lot of innings, and then it looks like he's about to lose it, and then comes back and pitched pretty well. Last inning, for example, he gave up a couple of base hits right away. There was an error on a bunt that allowed 1 run to score, and after that he really pitched pretty well. One great play by his shortstop on a line drive, but he got McCutchen in a big situation, got Ramirez, so he's been able to right the ship. And no question about it, he's not absolutely sharp, but he is not disintegrated when guys get on base, and he's come back and made some pretty good pitches. So we'll see if he can continue to do that this inning. He's going to need to.
3-1 to Alvarez. Looks like he threw him a 2-1 splitter.
Yep.
Three and 1.
He needs a 1-hopper at Dozier right here.
And now a walk. A hit batter followed by a walk. And there are all sorts of bells and whistles going off in the Twins dugout here in the 6th. Run or skate in the RBC Race for the Kids Minnesota Half Marathon and 5K benefiting Ronald McDonald House Charities, Upper Midwest on Saturday, August 1st. Top fundraiser wins a trip for 2 to Grand Cayman. For more details, visit foxsportsnorth.com and click on upcoming events. Cervelli has 2 base hits to the right side. He's pushed a couple of balls into right field for base hits. Corner infielders playing up in this spot in the 5th inning. The Pirates had their number 9 batter bunt. Cervelli takes a strike. The bunt was misplayed by Plouffe, who threw wildly, and that helped open the door for the Pirates to get a couple of runs. One strike to the Pirate catcher. Side missing.
The manager Paul Molitor has a left-hander Ryan O'Rourke warming up in the bullpen, as we showed you, and I have to believe he's thinking about Ishikawa, the left-hand hitter, coming up next. He doesn't want this game to get away from him. Starling Marte ill, not able to play. He's the most dangerous right-hand hitter that the opposing manager Clint Hurdle might run up there against a left-handed pitcher. So Paul, this might be Pelfrey's last hitter.
Flare to right, and Hunter plays it as a trap, fires to second, and they get the force. We see Torrey try to decoy runners all the time. That time it might have actually worked with the runner at first. Alvarez frozen between first and second. Torrey with a clean pickup. Not only did he get the out, but he kept the double play in order.
Well, this is a terrific play. Cervelli with a flare out to right field. Torrey, you see his glove up. He dekes a little bit, short hops the ball, then makes a running throw, and Escobar short hops the ball. 2 nice picks on both sides. Right, see right there, he dekes him like he's going to catch it. Scoops it, kind of an in-between hop. Very nice play. And Escobar with a pick on his end. Big defensive play right there.
Now Ishikawa. And Pelfrey in search of the elusive ground ball double play. High strike call. That's not where you're going to throw your fastball and get many ground ball double plays.
No,
right?
A little bit of a dilemma for pitcher and catcher right here. Ishikawa, a low fastball hitter without question, and so you want to get a double play, but you're also working into his wheelhouse if you throw him low fastball. So they're going to have to work around the plate here a little bit, change speeds.
Loop to left, and that'll fall for a hit, and it'll score a run. The Pirates take the lead with Pelfrey's control issues a big factor here in the 6th inning, and it's 3-2. Ishikawa gets credit for a run batted in, and Gong comes in from third.
Not great luck here for Mike Pelfrey. Really makes a pretty good pitch in on his hands, not really where he wants to hit the ball, and he just muscles it into left field. That's unlucky here. Not a bad pitch at all against that particular guy.
And that'll be the end of the night for Pelfrey, giving up 2 in the 5th and a run in the 6th. He was sailing through 3 innings, faced just 10 batters, and then it all seemed to turn on him in the 4th. Ryan O'Rourke will come in and try to keep this a 3-2 ball game. It's Jeff Decker, who struck out looking in the 3rd and dropped down a bunt in the 5th that was instrumental in the Pirates tying the game with the 2 runs in the 5th. So far so good for O'Rourke, and we'll see how he fares here. Just 3 hits and 4 walks allowed. Left-handers are just 1 for 11 against O'Rourke. Right-handers 2 for 13.
It's a good pitch there. He's kind of a left-handed specialist, so he made himself one down in AAA. That's the reason he got his chance. Paul Molitor looking for someone to come in and get a big out against left-handers.
Missed 2 strikes.
I think it's been a plus that he's gotten right-handers out as well, but with Ishikawa and Decker and then Polanco coming up, I really thought that Paul might have made the move one hitter earlier, but when Torrey made that nice play and got an out, it bought Pelfrey one more at bat, and O'Rourke, just true to form, just absolutely buries Decker. Threw him 3 breaking balls in a row, and each one got a little bit better. The 0-2 one, really good.
2 down, and now Polanco. Pelfrey exits without completing 6 innings. He gave up 5 hits, but the 3 hardest hit balls in the game tonight against Pelfrey might have all come off the bat of Gregory Polanco.
There's no question that they did. He's hit 3 rockets.
2 of them caught by Hicks, and the third one in the 5th, much as anything else, kept the Pirates from scoring more than 2 runs. Escobar with a great diving catch to his left. Wild swing and a miss, 1-1.
Yeah, the first line drive he hit out to Hicks was kind of a hang with him. It was just a line drive right at the center fielder that you do every once in a while. But the next 2, Hicks took a double away from him, crashing into the wall in center, and then, as you mentioned, Escobar with a really nice diving play to take a big hit away from him.
There must be something about that breaking ball that makes it hard for left-handed batters to pick it up and lay off of it. I don't think he's thrown one for a strike, but he's gotten 5 swings and misses.
Generally speaking, when you see a left-hander get these kinds of swings and misses from left-handed hitters, it's because even if they see it a little bit, the ball breaks a little bit more and then slows down a little bit. The speed fools him as much as the break does. He has a good combination of both.
And boy, you can't do a better job coming out of the pen than what Ryan O'Rourke did. Pirates got the go-ahead run, but that's it. It's 3-2. When the Twins hit, Miguel Sano will lead off the bottom of the 6th. We have selected the Data Strong fan photo of the game. You can tweet your strongest fan photo to hashtag #NorthDataStrongFan for a chance to be featured in an upcoming broadcast brought to you by T-Mobile. Middle of the Twins lineup, Sano, Plouffe, and Rosario trying to get the game tied up here against Charlie Morton. He's had the Twins, for the most part, beat the ball right into the ground, and Sano takes strike 1 on a breaking ball.
Yeah, that's Charlie Morton's MO, that's for sure. That late sinking action on the fastball induces an awful lot of ground balls.
Fastball up and in.
I saw a picture of a really dejected and somewhat confused Mike Pelfrey on the bench there. He's shaking his head, wondering what the heck happened there. It just felt so good, and all of a sudden I'm out of the game, and it really can be pointed, I think. Gosh, hit by pitch and walk, the first 2 guys in the 6th inning. You just can't do that. As you look at the ground outs for Morton.
3-1 now to Sano. Twins have had the leadoff man on 3 times in innings 2, 3, and 4. Only scored in the 4th inning after the Rosario opening triple. Foul back, and it's 3-2.
3-1 fastball up there in the zone to Sano tells you that Morton's got a little life on that fastball besides just sink. That's he beat Miguel right there with a 3-1 fastball, pretty much in the center of the Center of the strike zone.
Full count to Miguel Sano. And he took ball 4, breaking ball in the dirt. Sano, by the way, reported to me this afternoon his right ankle foot area feels a whole lot better after spraining it. The off day yesterday went a long way toward, he felt, healing it. Now, whether it has healed enough for him to go to third base later in this homestand when Trevor and Olivia Plouffe are going to have a baby. Assume that Trevor would miss a game. That may or may not happen. Maybe 2 games, 3 games. But Twins might need a third baseman, and Sano might be well enough to take over in the field. Here is Plouffe, and he takes up an in, ball 1. Trevor singled in the first and then bounced into an inning-ending double play in the third. Twins had a great chance in the third inning. First and third, nobody out, but Sano struck out, and Plouffe bounced into a double play, and that was it. Popped up, backing out of play, 1-1. What a pleasant night here. The Twins playing a really good baseball team, as has been the case most of the time since the All-Star break. Let's not disregard that. Twins taking out an Angel team that was playing as good as anybody when they went out to Anaheim, and the Yankees winning 2 out of 3. A first place ball club. Blue fouls it back. And now a Pirate team that has the second best record in the National League, and it's really not that close. They're just 6.5 games behind the Cardinals. And like every good team, Pirates have a good bullpen. Jared Hughes warming up. Former Twin presence in that bullpen with both Vance Worley and Deolis Guerra pitching out of the Pirate bullpen. 1-2 to Plouffe. Breaking ball, and Plouffe out in front, 1 away.
I pitched him really, really well. It just hard moving fastballs in, and then throwing the breaking ball at him and breaking away. Trevor thinking about the fastball in here. It looks like it might be one, and then just keeps breaking away. Tough sequence of pitches right there.
Mentioned that left-handers have had the best success against Morton. Bauer has a single, and Rosario has a leadoff triple. See what he can get done here with Sano at first and 1 down. Checked his swing, but took a strike. Left-handers hitting over 300 against Morton. Not a lot of home runs, though. Just 7 of them allowed in right around 70 innings now. By Cervelli, 1-1.
Cervelli moves around a lot behind the plate when he's giving his pitcher targets. It's interesting to watch him and get an idea of where they think they can get hitters out, especially Rosario. The first pitch, he moved way inside after that, getting the ball out over the plate, and Rosario hit the triple. So he moves in there again. They're going to make him prove he can handle it in there.
And it's away, and he flips it foul.
Morton not even close to where Cervelli wanted the ball. But Cervelli's thinking about it, thinking about what the hitters have done, and they see the direction on the scouting reports of where Rosario hits the ball. Hits the ball a lot to left field, left center. Hit a triple there earlier, so Cervelli's thinking, well, let's see what he can do with something inside. Looks like a breaking ball now. He wants down.
And another strikeout, 2 down. We'll bring up Aaron Hicks.
Cervelli working his pitcher. He really is. He wanted the ball, curveball down below the swing of Rosario. Not going to throw him a fastball out over the plate where he hit the triple. Just do something else. He's had 2 good sequences of pitches now with Plouffe and Rosario to get strikeouts.
Here's Hicks, a walk and an RBI on a ground ball. Way out in front, strike 1. Morton pitched around a leadoff walk in the second. Hicks walked out as far as third base, and now he's trying to strand Sano in the 6th. Strike two taken. Fastball. Twins throughout this inning have been swinging at the off-speed stuff and taking the fastballs. Tampa Bay's opened up a 10-1 lead over the Tigers in the ninth inning. David Price made perhaps his last start for the Tigers. There goes Sano. The ball struck to the right field corner. Sano wheels around second. On his way to third. He will score, and Hicks drives him in with a double. And now Hicks hesitates and takes third base. Sano took off, and Hicks responded with a double to the corner.
Well, a really aggressive call by manager Paul Molitor. A really nice call, and then a great swing on a breaking ball that has given every other left-hander fits. Aaron Hicks with a beautiful swing, ripping the ball down the right field line. How many times have we seen Aaron Hicks swing and miss breaking balls, and he has been so much better. Polanco hesitates like he doesn't know where to throw it, and Hicks alertly takes advantage of that. Should only have been a double, but when he doesn't get the ball in, Aaron Hicks with his speed just takes third base. Really good job hit by Aaron Hicks right there.
Credit Sano, who was running to second. He didn't slow down. He didn't go into a slide. He just kept right on running and scored the tying run, and the Pirates now get into their bullpen. The runner, there was no such attempt made by the shortstop, Jung Ho Kang.
Well, we do have a teachable moment here for all you young base runners out there. Your head needs to swivel left toward third base coach, not right toward where the ball is. That one thing they tell you early on, your third base coach will never lie to you.
Hughes the batter, Hughes the pitcher, Suzuki the batter, and the first pitch taken just low. Go ahead run now at third with two down. Suzuki with a grounder to third, and then he hit a liner that nearly cleared the reach of Polanco on the right field warning track, but he snared it. Drilled right to Ramirez, and Suzuki can relate to Gregory Polanco. He doesn't have any hits, even though he's hit the ball awfully hard here tonight. Twins get it tied up. A big two-out double by Aaron Hicks. evenly at 3-3.
Evenly, but not particularly well at times. An error would score Joe Mauer, and an error here would score 1 run for the Pirates. They would get another one when Neil Walker hit a ball in the hole. Eduardo Escobar makes a great attempt. Play was challenged but upheld. This knocked Pelfrey out of the game when Ishikawa flared one into left field, and then we just saw Aaron Hicks hit a ringing double down the right field line. Went to third on a lack of throw from Polanco. With that double scored Miguel Sano all the way from first base.
I had it in my score sheet as a double, but they've generously awarded Hicks a triple.
Really?
To me, if a guy stops at a base,
once you stop, yeah, I mean, wow.
1-0 now to Neil Walker. Andrew McCutchen and Aramis Ramirez will hit next. O'Rourke pitched an inning and 2/3 in his most recent outing against the Yankees, and the Twins saw him get a couple of outs to get out of the 6th inning, and now he'll face at least the leadoff man here in the 7th. 2-0. High pop-up, short left field. Escobar's out. Rosario calling him off. 1 down. And Andrew McCutchen will, if he's 0 for 3, he'll remember his first big league home run against Francisco Liriano at the Metrodome over 6 years ago.
Seems like he's been great for more than 6 years.
Yeah. Well, O'Rourke does a fine job keeping it a 3-2 game in the 6th and getting the first out of the 7th. And in a tight ball game like this, maybe O'Rourke's most impressive outing so far. And coming up next would be Casey Fiend. Brian Dunsing co-hosted the Lefties versus Lunker Celebrity Fishing Tournament out of Lake Minnetonka, benefiting the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
That one is
wow, look at those fish.
Yeah, those are largemouth bass. One of those, at least, caught by Marnie Gellner. Eddie Guardado. And the biggest one, of course, Glenn Perkins, who, when he's not pitching baseball, he lives on the water. Great outdoorsman. So as I understand it, Glenn and his boat won the tournament. Andrew McCutchen will bat against Casey Fiend. One down in the 7th. And McCutchen waiting for that first pitch fastball, got it and fouled it straight back. White Sox beat the Red Sox. Tampa Bay beat Detroit. Kansas City beat Cleveland. So 2 teams in the division. Chicago and Kansas City won. Detroit and Cleveland have lost. Tigers now falling back to 4 games below 500 on the outside corner, and it's 0-2.
Cutter right there by Casey Fiend in the perfect spot, out there right on or just off the corner. That's where that, it looks like he might try to go back there and do that again. Overthrew it there, but when you want to throw that cutter or a slider, you really want to throw it in counts where it's either going to be that really good spot in the outside corner or it's going to be off the plate. When you have to throw a strike with a pitch like that, it just tends to, you're not as aggressive with it. It tends to spin up there and stay in the middle of the plate. So he's going with fastball away this time. See if he can hit that corner.
Got him.
Good pitch.
94 miles per hour. A strikeout of McCutchen, 2 down.
Well, just a great spot. The McCutchen will tell you that the umpire made him swing at that pitch. He didn't like the cutter called strike the time before, the pitch before, and then Casey went out there with a fastball that didn't cut, just threw it right out there at 94 and got him to swing at it.
Ramirez checks his swing, ball 1. Just need to get back to the recipe they used in May when they won 20 ball games. Big swing by Ramirez, my goodness. And one of the key reasons they won 20 games in the month of May, a very efficient, if not lockdown bullpen. And that's one of the reasons why they struggled in June and why the month of July now has seen them lose 3 series in a row. Situations like this, don't give up the next run. And they did that. It's easier said than done, I know, but they did that a lot in May. And eventually Ramirez is going to make solid contact with Fiend's pitch. He's up there aggressively trying to untie the game.
Yeah, he's not being tentative up there. He's hacking, that's for sure. And Casey actually got away with one of those cutters I was talking about. It was a high cutter first foul ball that Ramirez had a pretty good swing at. He's got to stay down, out and down.
Roles have changed in the bullpen. We've seen Trevor May now being used later in the game, and Fiend and Boyer moved up earlier. And Dunsing warming up next. Twins would love for Fiend to get Ramirez here and into the bottom of the 7th in a tie game. A little bit easier to adjust the bullpen after an efficient 1-2-3 7th just off the plate. Now it's 3-2. And of course, if your bullpen's really efficient, McCutchen's turn in the batting order might not come up again through 9 innings. 3-2 to Ramirez. Bounce to third. Waist high hop for Plouffe. And Mauer with the tag. And it is a 1-2-3 7th for the Twins bullpen. send up Eduardo Escobar, Brian Dozier, Torrey Hunter. And our CarSoup.com trivia question: the 4 Pirates to win the National League MVP award, McCutchen, Bonds, Clemente, and Stargell would be the easy picks, I suppose. Bonilla might be in there. Dave Parker, forgot about him. Clemente passed away in 1972, but a good year in his last year.
I thought he was our vulnerability there.
Really?
Yeah, I was sure of those other 3. That
Eduardo Escobar takes down an in-ball 1. I've told people this many times. For 5 years in the late 60s, early 70s, we lived in central Missouri, and I got a chance to go to St. Louis to see a lot of the National League teams. And of course, this was before interleague play. And my biggest takeaway from that was being able to say that I saw Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Willie McCovey, Roberto Clemente, and Willie Stargell play in their primes. 2-0.
That's a blessing.
And now a strike, 2-1.
Seeing all those guys play, I would call that a blessing.
Gibson and Brock and guys like that too. Cepeda.
Well, I grew up in L.A. and saw all those guys too. It was the
nice pickup by Ishikawa.
Twins have hit the ball hard with nothing to show for it tonight in a lot of cases. Gregory Polanco was not the least bit sorry for him.
1 down, and that'll bring up Dozier.
Good swing by Escobar, as I mentioned, a good low ball hitter. He got one to his liking and hit the ball hard twice, once at the shortstop and once at Ishikawa. He's got a couple of fastballs to hit and nailed them. Just hadn't been able to find where they ain't.
And Dozier takes down and away, ball 1. Noon game tomorrow, so quick turnaround for these two teams. Last interleague series for both Pittsburgh and Minnesota. Dozier takes a strike at the knees. In interleague play, the Twins are 8-10. Pirates are 11-7. Just off the plate, close pitch.
One and one is one of those counts, 1-1, 2-1, where you really want the umpire to get it right. It's a huge difference. A big swing between 2-1 and 1-2.
Popped up. There it is. And right beneath us. 2-2.
You know, you're up there as a hitter and you got to count 1-1, and a close pitch goes your way, it's 2-1, and you're really in control of the count. If it goes the other way, the pitcher is. It's one thing if you let that count get away. You really want the umpire to make a good call on 1-1, 2-1. It's a big difference in the whole at bat.
That's to the shortstop, a softer line drive, gloved by Gone, 2 down. And that'll bring up Torrey Hunter. Follow live Twins baseball every day with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected to the Twins all season with MLB.tv game of the day, in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, and more. Browse the app's new features, including StatCast tracking videos and bilingual access for Spanish-speaking fans. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. 1 strike now to Hunter. Torrey's singled and walked in his last 2 at-bats. Pirates have 5 righties, 2 lefties in their bullpen. We mentioned Vance Worley, who was the opening day starter for the Twins a couple of years ago, and Deolis Guerra pitching out of the Pirate bullpen. That's on the outside corner, and it's 0-2. Single runs for the Twins in innings 1, 4, and 6. Cervelli. We've seen him do a good job of that. Talked earlier about the Royals' window to contend and win, and unless you have an unlimited payroll, some teams have that. If there is a window, it might last a few years, it might last longer than that. Toward the hole, backhanded by Gong, comes up firing on target, and the ball not fielded cleanly by Ishikawa. Hunter will reach first on an infield hit. And of course Hunter tagged, but he went down the line, benignly turned around and walked back to the bag, and Hunter will get credit for an infield hit.
Well, another nice play by Gong. It jumps up in the air, makes a pretty strong throw. Kind of an in-between hop to Ishikawa that he couldn't make a play on.
And now Mauer, who is singled and walked and bounced into a double play. Anyway, for a team like Pittsburgh, you can extend your window of contending by just being shrewd, and it looks like that's what the Pirates did. They made a shrewd move in taking Cervelli from the Yankees, who was really nothing more than a backup catcher, and inserting them as their everyday catcher, and the results have been outstanding. He's a good defensive catcher. He's produced offensively.
And they saved an awful lot of money not trying to re-sign Russell Martin.
That's true. Twins in this situation last inning sent the runner. Hicks responded with an extra base hit into the corner. The Twins tied the game. Bauer got the big hit in the second game in Pittsburgh. 13th inning home run. Down and away, ball one. Right behind the Cardinals again in terms of bullpen effectiveness.
Well, they have a nice club. There's no reason why their winning percentage is as good as it is.
Foul away.
Starting pitchers are real good. The bullpen's real good. They've got a lockdown closer. They've got the kind of lineup that can score some runs. Were it not for the Cardinals, they're playing about as well as anyone. The Cardinals have just been lights out. I don't think that race is over yet, though. I believe the Cardinals might come back to them. If the Pirates can continue to play well.
High and deep to the left field corner. Chased by Decker. He makes the catch. 335 feet from home plate. And the Twins end up scoreless in the seventh. Twins have a day game then tomorrow, and then the Mariners series is starting actually Thursday night, but Friday night includes Friday night fireworks with music presented by Cool 108 and a special happy hour at Barrio from 4:30 to 5:30. Saturday is a DQ Sensational Saturday, and Sunday is a Super America Not Whole Kids Day. Call 800-33-TWINS. Visit twinsbaseball.com. Get your tickets today. And again, Saturday night, a pregame ceremony honoring the 1965 American League champion Minnesota Twins. Jung Ho Kang will lead off the 8th inning against Casey Fiend. So far, the bullpen's been awesome. 5 up, 5 down with 3 strikeouts. And Kang takes strike 1. Alvarez and Cervelli will follow. Foul off the end of the bat. No decision for Mike Pelfrey. He ended up throwing 87 pitches and going 5 1/3 innings.
And again, you're going to give up some hits. You're going to have some innings where you let the leadoff guy get on. But I think Mike's undoing was pretty obviously hitting the first batter of the 6th inning, then walking the next one. It's very difficult in a close ball game to give a good hitting ball club those kinds of free opportunities.
And now 2-2. Unrelated, but yet interesting. Jose Barrios had another really good start at AAA. Foul back. The assumption would be that if the Twins were to make a change within the rotation, that it would be Trevor May. But the longer he pitches 1 or 2 innings at a time at the end, the less conditioned one would think he'd be able to reassert himself as a starter. Barrios had a rough first start at AAA, but he's come up with a couple of good ones in a row now. 2-2. And now 3-2. Mike Pelfrey allowed a 4-inning stretch where the leadoff man reached in all 4 innings. Innings 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now here in the 8th, Fiend doesn't want to issue a leadoff walk to Kang. Punch to center. Looks playable for Hicks. 1 down. Fiend got him on that cutter. 1 away.
Cutter in a real good spot, 3-2. Didn't spin it over the middle of the plate. It was down and breaking away. A nice pitch.
Alvarez 0 for 2 with a walk. Pelfrey compounded matters in the 6th. He hit Kang and then walked Alvarez. And then it seemed like it was just a matter of time. And it was 2 at bats later. Strike 1 with Fox Tracks presented by Carrier. Strike 2.
There's what they call the pitchers and hitters will call a backdoor cutter. Throwing the ball for the outside corner off the plate and cutting it back. Cut means it's moving right to left from a right-hander, so it cuts back on that outside corner. That's a very effective pitch if you can keep it out there and not let it leak over the middle of the plate.
Drilled to center. And on 1 hop, Hicks with the retrieve, a 1-out single. And that'll bring up Cervelli. Cervelli could have easily had a 3 for 3 night going. He's pushed 2 base hits to right field, and he flared one in front of Torrey Hunter, but Torrey was able to make a clean pick of the first hop and force Alvarez at second base.
Yeah, I don't write down 9-6 too often on my scorecard. On
the outside corner, and he gets ahead again. Cervelli's batting average just under 300 now. A little bit of power. Flip foul, 2 strikes.
And we have seen Cervelli, and now the 2 and 3/4 games that we've seen Cervelli and the Pirates, 2 of them in Pittsburgh, and now this one. What we have seen is a lot of flares into right field.
Parts of 7 years with the Yankees, and you look at May and Dunston getting loose. Parts of 7 years with the Yankees and a total of 688 big league at bats. He'll get almost that many this year in his first year in Pittsburgh. Rolled to the right side. He's got another hit.
I'm real tired of that.
An 0-2 pitch, and he just stuck the bat out and found right field.
You say he's got a little power, and I don't think I've seen him do anything but hit the ball just like this against the Twins in 2+ games. Pretty good pitch by Casey. Cervelli's rear end comes here toward me, and he sticks out the bat. Rolls one through for a base hit. And Gregory Polanco and Kurt Suzuki are saying there's no justice in baseball.
Paul Molitor is going to go out and bring in Brian Dunston to face the left-handed hitting Ishikawa and, if necessary, Deckert. Casey got the first 3 batters. And now a pair of 1-out hits, and the Pirates have a threat in the 8th. With 2 on and 1 out in the 8th inning. And Brian Dunston has been very good. 11 scoreless outings in a row. Look at the opponent batting average. The way Brian struggled early on. Forget the ERA. The struggles were condensed to some short outings.
Right.
But the opponent batting average very good for Brian. And as we detailed in the Yankee series, been particularly good facing the first batter. Just 4 hits and 32 at bats, a 125 average, and only 6 of the 27 inherited runners he's faced have scored. Rodriguez just hitting a little over 200, and he is 0 for 8 as a pinch hitter. Taken low, ball 1.
Pirates manager Clint Hurdle hamstrung a little bit by Starling Marte not being able to play tonight, playing with a short bench and doesn't have some of the moves he would like to make.
And now outside 2-0. Dunston pitched twice in the Yankee series. 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk. Two 2-0 to Rodriguez. Tap foul. Both O'Rourke and Dunsing have been great since the break, and it's odd the left-hander who struggled since the All-Star break has been the closer, Glenn Perkins. Missed on a couple of save opportunities. Twins hope to present him one yet here later tonight. 2-1. Swing and a miss. 2-2. Dunsing has been the quintessential pitch to contact relief pitcher. He has not struck out many batters this year, but he has gotten soft contact. You saw 25 2/3 innings, only 14 strikeouts. 2-2. But he gets a strikeout. 2 down. Getting the right-handed Rodriguez, and now he'll face Decker.
Well, Brian's got really nice stuff. When he's throwing the ball in the spots he's trying to hit, he is very, very tough. You're right. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, although the way he pitched, Rodriguez will get some strikeouts, but he does pitch to soft contact. There's no question about it. He's got a good fastball, 2 speeds of breaking ball, and a changeup. And when he's not throwing the ball in the middle of the plate, guys hit a lot of balls weakly.
Swing and a miss.
Great example of the bigger, slower breaking ball.
Decker was with the Padres, got 26 at bats last year, 5 at bats for the Pirates. So far this year with Pittsburgh, 1 hit, 9 at bats with 4 strikeouts. And Suzuki wants to talk it over with Dunsing.
Well, Suzuki going out there and saying, you know, your colleague out there in the bullpen, Ryan O'Rourke, threw this guy 3 straight breaking balls and put him away. We just threw him a good one there. So how do you want to pitch? You want to just keep throwing that pitch because he's missed 4 in a row by a lot. What's your plan here? What do you think? What do you want to do?
1 strike to Decker. Breaking ball taken for a ball. Decker tired of swinging and missing, so he took one. Crack foul.
Woo. Soph.
Over the head of Rick Schofield. With, of course, the helmet on.
A little smirk on his face.
All right, so he's very late on a fastball.
Well, he's so late because he's got to be thinking that the curveball's coming, right? And so this does mess up a pitcher to catch a little bit because guys that late, you know, he's got curveball in his mind. So the question is, if you're going to throw him a curveball, it's got to be a real good one. Down and away, you'll probably get him.
Scooped by Suzuki, taken by Decker.
Not quite that far down the way. You hate to throw a hitter something soft after he's been that late on your fastball. But Decker hasn't really shown any ability to come close to a curveball. So we'll see which way they go here. If he throws a curveball, he just can't throw it in the middle. Otherwise, you're going to get it.
And now full count. That'll allow the runners to take off early. So a potentially big pitch there because now Dunsing's run the count full. Decker's been challenged to make contact, but it's a hit to the outfield here. Now Alvarez will have an early jump from second base.
Well, if he can summon up a curveball in a good spot, he's going to get it.
3-2 to Decker. And he walked him.
Just couldn't quite throw it close enough.
Credit Decker, who took some pitches, but many of them were close to being strikes.
He just couldn't throw it quite close enough to get him to chase, because he would have swung at it. I'm pretty convinced of that.
Polanco will hit. Polanco with a strikeout and 3 lineouts. Dunsing trying to strand the bases full. Taking low, ball one. Dunsing struck out Rodriguez. Now it's thrown 12 pitches, just 5 strikes. Fouled over the on deck circle, 1-1. Polanco hitting 167 against lefties. 100 points higher than that against righties. Breaking ball for a called strike 2. Check swing and appeal. No, it's 2-2. Buzzed a fastball up and in and nearly got a check swing, strike 3.
Yeah, that's a good check. It almost got him.
Big pitch here. Dunsing doesn't want to run the count full again. He ended up walking Decker on a 3-2 pitch. Fouled to the screen. Dunsing trying to strand 2 inherited runners and now one of his own.
See if he can get something on the outside corner, either a fastball or a breaking ball.
Driven to right field and deep. Hunter will play a decoy, but it's high off the wall. It'll score 2. It may score 3. Dozier gunning it to the plate, and it's a 3-run double. The loose ball near home plate will allow Polanco to go to third base, and the Pirates get the big 2-out hit in the 8th. A 3-run double for Gregory Polanco, who's hit 4 balls hard tonight. And a big hit for the Pirates in the 8th.
Well, he tried to go with the breaking ball. It was down, but right in the middle of the plate. It's a nice at bat by Polanco, but he's scalding hot tonight. He's had good swings and everything he's looked at, just about, and drills one off the right field wall on a curveball that just had a little too much in the middle of the zone. Down, but pretty much middle.
Poked foul into the seats, 1 strike to Neil Walker. And I'm guessing that the biggest regret, given what Polanco did, might be the walk to Decker.
Oh, absolutely, it is. Decker hitting $143, not hitting well against left-handed pitching at all. That was really the out he needed.
1-1.
Uncharacteristic lack of command all of a sudden in the Decker at bat.
And a base hit to right will make it a 4-run inning. Walker getting one of Cervelli's patented base hits to right, just stuck the bat out, poked a single to right, and it's a 4-run inning for Pittsburgh here in the 8th. Brian Dunsing struck out Rodriguez, the right-handed pitch hitter, but has given up a walk, a double, and a single. The Pirates have opened the game up. Paul Molitor will make a pitching change. First time Dunsing's given up any runs in 12 outings, and it comes here in the 8th. RBI single, unable to get the third out of the 8th inning. We'll bring Trevor May into the game to face Andrew McCutchen.
Trevor been pretty good in this 8th inning role, although this is 4 runs down in the 8th coming into the game. Not exactly what manager Paul Molitor had in mind for him, but he was the one that was loose out there. He's ready to go, get him some more experience late in the game. Different sort of 8th inning guy. He's got starter stuff to come in the 8th inning. Good fastball. He's able to throw it harder because he knows he's not going to be in there a long time, so he's up around 95, 96. Big curveball and a changeup. He's used them all effectively in his 8th inning role so far.
Fastball, swing and a miss. You look at the score sheet, and this looks an awful lot like Saturday's game against the Yankees. First half of the game going along fine. Starting pitcher putting up zeros, and then suddenly crooked numbers all over the place in the second half of the game. 1 strike to McCutchen. Fly ball right field. Hunter coming in. There's a third out, but Polanco and Walker get a couple of big 2-out hits, and the Pirates open up a 4-run lead.
Bottom of the 8th. Stay with us directly after the game for Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. The Polanco double changed the complexion of this game in the top of the 8th. We'll take a look inside that inning to see how the Pirates were able to rally specifically off the Twins bullpen. We'll also take a look at Aaron Hicks' big game, both in the field and at the plate. He is continuing a great run that Roy Smalley talked about during our game broadcast. And we'll take you inside the Twins clubhouse to hear from the manager, Paul Molitor. Get a preview of tomorrow's big game. Francisco Liriano, the former Twin, goes against Irvin Santana. A game that was not originally on our schedule. We will have that game for you. We'll have the manager talk about that and see if the Twins guys can maybe rally here to give Paul Molitor a chance to smile after this one.
Well, the Twins will need a big comeback. Miguel Sano with a big swing. 0-1. It'll be Sano, Plouffe, and Rosario.
Tony Watson is no picnic either. I will tell you, he can rush it up there. He throws hard, kind of flings from the side. That fastball has got a lot of life. Sean Rodriguez now in at first base.
Foul tip. Sano is out on strikes with Cervelli hanging on. Sano with a single, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. And now Plouffe will bat.
Threw 3 fastballs right by Miguel Sano. Like I say, he's got a good arm, and that ball up in the zone right there, tough to catch up to.
Plouffe with a single, a ground ball double play, and a strikeout. And a foul back to the screen. In this game, if Dunston gets the job done, then it's a stalemate. We play on here, but this has been a pretty familiar script for the Twins for the last month, 2 months, where games start decaying. Here's a ball flared to right, a base hit. Plouffe with his second hit. Start decaying in the middle to late innings, and the bullpen has not been as good since the month of May as they were in the month of May.
And if you look at how the game set up and what Paul Molitor was trying to do, he kind of had it set up the way he wanted. When Pelfrey had to come out of the game, he was able to bring in Ryan O'Rourke against left-hand hitters, and O'Rourke did a fine job striking out Decker and striking out Polanco, the two left-handers he was asked to get, and then Neil Walker, leading off the next inning, not as good against left-handers. He got him out, brought Casey Fiend in to pitch against the right-handers.
Outside, 1-1.
Casey did fairly well until the left-handers came back around. Brought in Brian Dunsing to pitch to the left-hander, and so Paul just kind of had it going exactly the way you would want to think about it, and Brian just not able to get that key left-hander.
And Rosario fights one off and gets an opposite field hit, not unlike Plouffe's. First and second, one down, and that'll bring up Hicks. See if there's a little more magic in Aaron Hicks's bat tonight. Hicks drew a walk in the second. Drove in the second run with a ground ball and 2 strikes in the fourth, and then with 2 outs tripled into the right field corner to score Sano from first.
Boy, you love to get hits like this. That's deep in your kitchen right there, and he just able to fight it off and dribble it in, find a hole. Rosario knows he was beat on that fastball and got a hit anyway. He's got to love it.
Hicks hitting from his preferred side. He does have 2 hits from the, or 1 hit and a walk from the left side of the plate. And he drops one over the head of Ramirez. Plouffe around third. He's coming in. Here's the throw to the plate. And all the way over the cutoff man, and that allows Rosario to go to third. Aaron Hicks with another good at bat, driving in his 3rd run on 3 different plate appearances. And the Twins have the tying run of the plate now.
No reason to wait. You're going to get fastballs and hard fastballs, and he didn't just drill it off the end of the bat a little bit, but good enough to get it into the outfield. Driving another run, another good at bat by Aaron Hicks, and a real bad mistake by Decker there. There's just no reason with the 4-run lead that you throw that ball through to the plate. You just keep guys from taking extra 90 feet segments.
And it's Rosario, of course, advancing from second to third, and he's already shown some pretty good base running instincts. We'll see what Suzuki can do, and he flares one foul over the Twins dugout. I think it's been a surprise that Sano at the plate has shown like he has been here before, even though he hasn't. And Rosario on the bases, I think, has been very impressive in his base running and watching the overthrow there and advancing, taking the extra base. Might be the difference between a run scoring on a fly ball or not.
You bet. And every run that you get here in the 8th, obviously a big run as you get closer to that 7 spot that the Pirates have up there. You have 5 outs left, and every run you get here is a big one. Get you closer to trying to ambush him in the 9th.
Crack to the corner. Fair. Rosario scores. Hicks to third. He'll score as well. Suzuki drives in a pair with a double.
Wow, great at bat by Curtin. He had it coming to him. He'd hit the ball hard all night long. Finally got one to fall in where there was nobody standing in front of the ball. Great at bat. Aaron Hicks was flying around the bases. That was fun to watch. But the Twins know about Watson. They know he wants to throw it hard because he can. And they're up there looking fastball, first pitch. Suzuki with a tomahawk swing, a beautiful swing and a high fastball there. And Aaron Hicks was, as soon as the ball fell in, I was watching him from first base, and he was flying.
Danny Santana will run for Kurt Suzuki. So that's 2 bench moves there. Santana in to run. Fryer will come in to catch. The Twins responding with already 3, and the tying runs at second with 1 out. Escobar will hit with the speedy Santana at second.
And there'd be absolutely nothing wrong from tying this game up or going ahead and not having to see, well, obviously if you go ahead, but not, you tie this game up and not see Melanson right away.
Glenn Perkins warming up in the Twins pen. Might get the 9th inning regardless of what the score is. Escobar is 0 for 3.
Escobar's hit the ball hard a couple of times. Had 2 nice at bats with nothing to show for it.
Outside, ball 1. Escobar has been much better from the other side of the plate, coming into the game at 272. Just a 200 batter from the right side of the plate. A drive to left center field. Deep to the gap. A ground rule double that will tie the game. Five straight hits after the first out of the 8th inning. And now Dozier.
Five straight good swings here. Escobar said he's more of a low ball hitter, looking for the fastball, gets it down there where he likes it, and drives it to the gap in left center. McCutcheon can't get to it. I was hoping this ball would hit against the fence and stay in the ballpark. Escobar was going to get a triple there with 1 out.
Watson, in 45 1/3 innings, had only given up 32 hits all year long, and the Twins cuff him around for 5 straight hits, and we've got a tie game. Twins have tied it up. Brian Dozier will face the Pirate closer who made the All-Star team, as Dozier did. And they actually faced each other in the All-Star game. Brian had 1 at bat, and he hit a home run to left center field.
Well, manager Clint Hurley going right to his closer. He's not going to let the Twins go ahead here in the bottom of the 8th and close them out in the 9th without his closer ever even being in the game to give him a chance. He's going to try and stop the bleeding right here and hope to send it into either win it in the top of the 9th or send it into extra innings and do the best he can with whoever else he's got out there in the bullpen. But he just doesn't feel like he can let anybody else out there. But his #1 guy to stop the bleeding right here.
Rolled to second. It'll be the second out, and Escobar advances to third. And then back to your point, if that ball stays in the ballpark somehow, well, the Pirates bring the infield in. But
well, if the infield's in, that ball might have gotten through. That's why I was hoping that ball would stay in the park. Twins could score the go-ahead run without benefit of a hit, but up to Torrey at this point.
He has 2 singles and a walk. He's reached his last 3 times up.
Melancon, he threw a cutter there to Bryant. He threw a cutter to him that he hit for a home run in the All-Star game. He's a cutter throwing fanatic. That's his best pitch, and that's what he throws.
Fly ball right field, and retreating is Polanco. Melancon gets the job done on just a couple of pitches, and we are tied as we were going into the 8th, but the score has changed. It's 7-7 going to the 9th. Impressive comeback by the Twins after giving up a 4 spot in the 8th inning. They score 4, and they bring their closer Glenn Perkins in. Eric Fryer the catcher. Perkins will try to get the Twins off the field quickly and uneventfully here in the top of the 9th. Swing and a miss, and Ramirez tried to untie the game. He's 0 for 4 tonight. Perkins in a non-save situation gave up 4 runs to the Yankees here the other night on Saturday night. .96 miles per hour. And Perkins, like any great competitor, wanted to get back out there as quick as he could after the misfire on Saturday. High.
Interesting to see him throw these high fastballs to Aramis Ramirez. The fastball that A-Rod hit out, that was such a devastating tie in the game home run, was a low fastball. Perk said afterwards he was trying to throw the ball up in the zone, just didn't get it up there. He's making sure now. He's got a little bit better idea where the ball's going tonight, looks like.
Softly to Plouffe on a line, 1 down. Crackers bat, 1 away here in the 9th. Jung-Ho Kang will hit next. And Perk said afterwards, he just didn't have command. He couldn't get the ball where he wanted to throw it.
Close. Nope. And that's going to happen. I mean, he wasn't going to go through the season without with getting every save he had the opportunity to get. It just wasn't going to happen. It's always painful when it does, but he just wasn't going to go 42 for 42. It wasn't going to happen.
1-0. Foul back. Gives you some idea how good he'd been. And stingy. Gives up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and it skyrocketed his ERA to 2.25.
Right.
Clipping the inside corner. Giving up 10 runs all year, and almost half of them in that 2/3 of an inning against New York. 1-2 to Gong. Deep to left. And a bat flip for Gong, and the Pirates are back in front. Eight to 7 Pirates. Gong hitting just his 6th home run of the year.
Well, that was exactly what Glenn Perkins had in mind. He was, again, back foot slider attempt, and he threw a breaking ball right in the middle of the plate. You'll watch where this ball settles right there. And he knew it as soon as he threw it. This young man is strong. Like as I mentioned, he needs not to flip the bat like that as a rookie player. That would aggravate me, but he is a good-looking young hitter, that's for sure.
And now Alvarez. Tap foul. Perkins, the 5th home run he has allowed.
It's a 2-strike curveball. After throwing the ball pretty much by him, or breaking ball, he was trying to get that back foot slider. I'm almost certain. And just threw it in the middle of the plate. That one's kind of in the middle too. It's just not. He has not thrown a typical Glenn Perkins slider in, I don't know, several hitters. Let's put it that way. Going back to the Yankee game.
And now Cervelli. Well, Gong, who may have turned this game back around for the Pirates, he led the Korean baseball organization with 40 home runs last year. So.
Well, he can hit. There's no doubt in my mind. I saw that in Pittsburgh. I really love his swing and like his actions at the plate. He's one of those guys that just looks like he knows where the big end of the bat is, and he gets it to the baseball a lot of the time.
Bullpen issues striking the Twins again here in the late innings. 4 runs allowed in the 8th. It's hit a long way down the line, but this one will hook foul. Not by much. Perkins with 5 home runs allowed now in less than 41 innings. Chance to we're just not seeing swings and misses like we saw through the first half. He had the
well, we saw him on some fastballs here to both Ramirez
right.
and to Gong, and then he's thrown 2 breaking balls that were right in the middle of the plate. Gong hit it out, and Alvarez lined it to right.
A home run by Murphy in the Yankee game was particularly painful. Here's a bouncer to third. Blue fires, close play. Get out number 2, but on the play, Alvarez goes to second. Perkins had, we thought, Murphy set up for a punch out. And then Murphy ended up hitting a 3-run home run to right center field.
Again, on the breaking ball that he was trying to throw the back foot slider that has been his trademark, and he left it up and out over the plate. He almost couldn't have missed the spot that he was trying to hit by any more than he did. And as he said, he just couldn't throw the ball where he wanted to. started off this inning here tonight, throwing the ball hard, throwing the ball up in the zone or in on guys where it looked like he wanted to as well. Just couldn't get the slider there to Gong or Alvarez where he wanted.
1-0 to Sean Rodriguez, who struck out as a pinch hitter in the 8th. More work to do for the Twins in the bottom of this inning with Mauer, Sano, and Plouffe due up. 2-0. Check swing, no swing, 3-0. Pirates getting 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 4 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th so far. 3-1. Pitch thrown by Perkins here in the 9th, and fly ball left center field. And Rosario puts it away. Jung Ho Gong with a home run with 1 out of the 9th, and the Pirates get a late inning lead again. The 8th, now a 1-run lead going to the bottom of the 9th. Take a look at what's next, brought to you by CenturyLink. And Francisco Liriano has been very good, except against the Twins in Pittsburgh in the month of May. Irvin Santana hoping to pitch as well here at Target Field as he's pitched on the road. He's 3-0 on the road. Or excuse me, 2-0. With 3 really, really good starts. Mauer, Sano, and Plouffe against Melanson. Mauer with a walk, a single, ground ball, double play, and a fly to left. Outside, ball 1. Anthony's 1-1. Bauer doesn't approve. You look at a reliever's numbers that you don't see very often, and you look for some vulnerability. In Perkins, it might be home runs now. Walks, perhaps. A lot of hits. There are none for Melanson. Gives up a .211 batting average. Has only walked 9 guys. Tapper, right side. Walker scoops and fires one away. And that'll bring up Sano. Seven earned runs allowed by Melanson. And just the 2 home runs.
Yeah, what makes that really, really remarkable is that he's primarily a one-pitch pitcher. He throws an awful lot of cut fastballs. That one was a little bit bigger breaking ball to Joey. He'll throw that one every once in a while, but he just really, really lives on the cut fastball. Going to try to throw it here on the outside corner.
Ball 1. You hope for a mistake.
Yeah, the cutter can stay in the middle. Brian Dozier proved that in the All-Star game.
Slower breaking ball left up high.
Here's the time you're hoping for a mistake. Probably going to get a cutter 2-0. Needing to throw a strike. He may leave it in the middle. Going for the outside corner.
3-0 Plouffe on deck.
Good job by Sano. If you can lay off that pitch. Got to believe green lighted here. Get something in the middle of the plate and give it your best shot here to tie the game.
A 4-pitch walk to the rookie.
And a very, very well-disciplined plate appearance right there by Miguel Sano.
Again, Melanson doesn't walk too many guys. That's just his 8th unintentional walk. And now Plouffe, who has one of 4 walk-off home runs at Target Field this year. Sano lifted for a pinch runner, Nunez. Plouffe hit the first walk-off home run in mid-April against Cleveland. And Kenny Vargas did it in mid-June. Of course, right before the All-Star break, Dozier hit 2 of them. The only 4 walk-off hits for the Twins this year. Double play grounder. And the Pirates beat the Twins for the first time this year. Plouffe hitting into his 2nd ground ball double play of the night. Twins with a spirited 4-run rally in the bottom of the 8th. But Glenn Perkins gives up a home run in the 9th. And the Twins lose the opener, Anthony LaPanta. Final score 8-7.
Disappointing start to this interleague series, no doubt, after a dramatic rally late. We'll take a look at how each team put up big numbers in the late innings. Show you how Aaron Hicks continued his solid hitting. Here from Paul Molitor, all next on Twins Live, presented by Century Link.